Hello and welcome to the third installment of the Rational Podcast. I'm Jay.
And I'm amped from democracy. So we've already planned. Welcome to the Australian election special.
He's been waiting to do that for so long.
I have actually. I'm R, and we both just voted. So
Yes, we participated in democracy.
democracy and Australian democracy.
Democracy in action.
Yeah, Australian democracy is basically going somewhere, having a bunch of people attack you with pamphlets, and then going to a sausage, and then going to a sausage sizzle afterwards.
If anyone who lives in Australia, or rather anyone who doesn't live in Australia, should know that a sausage sizzle is part of any activity within Australia.
Yeah, like going to Bunnings.
Yeah, picking up some hardware from Bunnings, sausage sizzle. Going to vote, sausage sizzle. Football game, sausage sizzle.
I've seen in the city centre that they set a sausage sizzle up outside the courthouse. So it's like, yeah, defended by sexual harassment claims, sausage sizzle.
There's no better way to celebrate. Absolutely no better way.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, I think we'll probably talk about that for a bit.
Sausage sizzle special.
The sausage. Welcome to the Sausage Sizzle Special, featuring your host, Pork. So we've had a lot of interest from people asking about about what the state of politics is in Australia. So it might be a bit unusual, I guess, coming from I've been fairly in touch with the American political system, like watching what's been going on there, and I think Australian politics is a lot more tame.
It is. I guess like I've fallen out of the loop a tiny bit on Australian politics, mostly because of boredom.
Yeah,
it's just not as exciting as American politics.
It's true. It is really boring, and it's very it's extremely dishonest as well. Like it becomes, and it's a shame because it's one of the things that it's a thing creationists do a lot when they argue as well, which is to explain something properly can take a lot of time. So you'll do low effort attacks, which we see. Australian politics is basically boiled down to short slogans. Yeah, which I guess you can see with any politics, like Trump, gonna build a wall.
I mean, politics in general is like that, but I feel like Australian politics they just try less. So it's a lot more of just,
people don't give a shit in Australia. Like, so we walked out of the polling booth, and I was talking to Jay on my way up, being like discussing, I think I'm going to vote these guys, going to vote these guys, going to put this in. I put a lot of thought into it about what would be best for the country. And I walk out, and I finished before Jay, and then I was standing out the front, and these people came out. One of them was like, "Yeah, I put the marijuana party first, and then just listed from 2 to 6 straight from the front." And I was like, "What?" So we have preferential voting in Australia, just for those who don't know. So basically, you have all these boxes, and you list 1 to 6 or more. You can do more than 6 if you want. And basically, if you vote for your number 1 and they don't get in, it then uses your vote for number 2 and so forth and so forth. So this person had voted the marijuana party, which isn't going to get a seat. Like, they're definitely, I bet my thumbs they're not going to get a seat. Like, there's no way. So they're not going to get a seat. So his number 1 was wasted, and then it's going to go to his number 2. He doesn't even know what his number 2 was. He was just like, I randomly selected from there on out. I just want some weed.
Yeah, it's a bad system because he has no idea what he voted for. He could have voted for something that completely contradicts his own beliefs and ideas. So, I mean, and like this is the basic standard for, I guess, mostly for millennials really, but for Australians, it's just nobody really gives a shit. So
Australia has a really low shit giving culture. It's true. Like, it's totally true.
We don't rank high on the shit giving global standard. Which is it's one of the things I love about Australia, really.
It's pretty laid back.
It's so incredibly laid back, and it's fantastic. I mean, like, it's hard to offend people in Australia because everybody's just offending people all the time.
That's why the SJWs haven't got a very good footing in Australia.
That's something I wanted to talk about, because I actually did vote my second preference was for the Greens, and I'm so conflicted.
Yeah,
because to be in all honesty, I kind of hate the Greens really, because one of their pillars of policy is social justice, and I'm just looking at them and just like, I love renewable energy, I hate social justice. It's just
the thing with when you vote for minor parties. So I put Greens as my number one. I'll throw that out there.
It's understandable.
Watch the comment section erupt. There's a reason I did it though. There was a reasoning behind this. So we have two governments. Well, not two governments. We have two main parties here. So we've got Liberal, which are the right-wing party, which is extremely weird because I know Liberal, it's directly the antithesis of their name. But yeah, Liberal are super right-wing. And we've got Labour, who are centre-left. Very similar to the Democrats in America. And I'd say our Liberals aren't quite as far right as the Republicans, but they are very far right. And they're going to take out the vast majority of the Senate and the House of Representatives. So I've basically voted for my first preference to be the Greens, purely because I know I wouldn't want the Greens to have the government. I honestly wouldn't. I wouldn't want them to be the government in power. However, when they have a couple of seats in the Senate, they serve as a good buffer to control what gets through when they're the ones doing decisions. Because no one's Liberal's not going to put up the black reparations fund. Like if then they walk up to you with like a piece of paper covered in skin tones, put it next to yours, and if you're a certain level above, they start giving you certain payments, and it's like, yeah, no,
you're entitled to the light brown grant.
Yeah, the light brown grant. It's like, oh no, your skin's white. You have too much privilege.
Yeah,
but
higher tax rate.
Yeah, exactly. But they're not likely to propose that, so the Greens will never be in a position where any of their crazy positions will get in. Whereas things like in Australia, we're having a really big problem with healthcare reform right now, because the government that's in currently, and probably will win the election today, they have mounted a lot of attacks on the healthcare system in reductions in funding and freezing the GP rebate. So Australia's got kind of a weird, Medicare's kind of weird in that you pay for a doctor and then Medicare gives you some money back, unless you go to a bulk billing place, but they're really shitty doctors. No. Oh, the last bulk billing clinic I went to, so I have this bulk billing clinic I go to if it's not too important. Every single time I've been there, they've been like, take this cream.
It's the same cream every time?
Yeah, it's just a mix of hydrocortisone cream and antifungal cream. Like, it'll be something that cream clearly isn't the solution for. And they'll be like, here, take this cream. I'm like, well, it's free.
I was about to say that, like, at least you've got some healthcare. But, you know, not all healthcare was made the same. And this is my biggest concern at the moment is, and why I definitely did not hesitate to vote for Labor, was because of the healthcare reform. What's this? What?
That's my face when I go to the bulk billing doctors.
Well, it is nice to have free healthcare at times.
Yeah, but no, I agree, because the healthcare reform is a big issue here, which Australia's healthcare system isn't sustainable. So we do need to get some money into it, and there's a couple of ways to do that. And basically, the Labor government, so our more left-wing government, is more likely to just try and increase the Medicare levy, which is basically this small tax you pay for healthcare. Whereas the Liberal government are trying to it's kind of privatizing, but it's not privatized, because they're not actually selling it over to a private company, but they're making it so you need to pay considerably more upfront to use the healthcare. Now, when these two guys fight it out, it's not going to be, Liberals not going to have the power to just pass whatever they want, and Labor's not going to have the power to just pass whatever they want. It's going to come down to the crossbench, and that crossbench, I would rather Greens were on it, because Greens are not going to sell out the healthcare system.
Yeah,
I haven't got to worry about Greens selling out the healthcare system. And if Greens can pick up enough seats so that they are the swing, I'm happy. Because as much as they have some pretty stupid thoughts, they're going to be a really good, they are a really good crossbench, because they'll support investment in renewable energy. They'll support the environment. They're big for science funding. They're big for a lot of things that I relate with, and that is a thing with the left, is that the left has, like, if you get SJWs and I talk to an SJW about any other topic that isn't social justice, I'm probably going to find a lot of agreement with them in the way they approached because I am very left wing. So it's just when it gets to this social Marxism flip where we completely diverge, and there's not a party which is perfect for me at all, and I don't think it's a party that's perfect for anybody. But I think if you exclude the SJW section of the Greens, I think they represent me fine, except for their immigration policy, which is fucking retarded.
Yeah.
Complete
open border.
Complete open borders. I'm like, yeah, okay. No,
well,
thanks.
we have the space. So if we
we've got desert space. It's not like the fucking Narragain is filled with houses.
I was about to say, if we start a system to place public housing in the middle of Australia.
Yeah, but then we got to pay for it. You know what's expensive?
It's creating jobs. We're creating jobs.
Oh, creating jobs.
Providing housing, not particularly good housing, but.
So before we move on, I haven't shown Jay this video, which I found just a bit ago, and it shows what Australian politics is. So this is a huge controversy for this morning, because Bill Shorten, the opposition leader of the Labor, he goes to his election polling, and sorry, let me just. Don't worry about it. So he goes to the polling booth, and people are like shredding into him because he eats a hot dog wrong. Oops, sorry, hold on. Let me just adjust my sound a second. But yeah, so people having huge whinge that he eats hot dogs wrong, which is like.
We just talked about how important a sausage sizzle is to Australians.
Yeah,
so
well,
it's
look.
It doesn't take a
How are you? Thanks very much. Sorry, Bill.
My son plays at Compulsory. Yes.
It's a good club.
Yes.
Yeah. How's that?
Thank you. Taste of democracy. Very good. Now, what's happened to kids, guys?
What the fuck is he doing?
G'day.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you as well.
People are going nuts over this.
Well, they weren't going nuts in the video.
Not in the video,
in the comment section.
No. Like, I looked up Australian election news, and like the first 10 stories were Bill Shorten doesn't know how to eat a hot dog. And I saw one thing that was saying like it's damaged the exit polls by like 1%. It's like dropped his vote.
Well, he's lost a lot of connection with the Australian public from that. Because what the fuck? To be fair, it's not as bad as eating an onion.
Yeah. Oh, well, this is a good one. The last prime minister we had.
Tony Abbott.
I'm sure some of you heard of him. If you haven't, just look him up. He's great fun. Grabbed a complete onion and just started eating it because I'm pretty sure he thought it was an apple. And his face when you can see he's just trying to resist the urge to cringe. But we were.
I can't remember the video. Was it was the skin on the onion as well?
Yeah. Straight through the skin. So. One of the things I think is actually to bring the conversation to a bit of a more serious light is to discuss. So in Australia, we have compulsory voting. And I actually don't know what you think about compulsory voting.
A lot of mixed feelings about compulsory voting. Because, democracy is about choice and freedom of choice. And to say that you don't have the freedom of choice not to do something is kind of...
Yeah, it's true.
It's kind of contradictory. But at the same time, like, it's not... you don't give people the freedom to just drive a car. You can't just own firearms. Even things like crossbows and stuff like that are illegal in Australia.
Depends what state you're in.
That's true. But
crossbows are illegal in WA.
We have a lot of fairly strict laws, but they make sense. So a lot of the freedoms are restricted. It's not like America where freedom is held at the highest regard. It's more like logic and public safety is held at a high regard.
I don't know how our 45% American viewers are going to feel about you guys. We're not like America.
Well,
we have logic.
Look at the arguments for gun control and tell me that's logical.
Oh no, the comment section is going to be spam now.
I was talking to you about this before. Like I'm not 100% against gun control. Like, or I'm not 100% for gun control rather in America. But I mean,
I think it really does depend on the country. Like, for example, I don't think you could pass complete gun control in America.
No, I don't think
there's
so.
more guns. I'm pretty sure there's more, or at least equal amount of guns as there are people. Like, it's too ingrained in the culture. So at that point, I think it has to become more reasonable measures like better background checks and things like that. But, I haven't looked into the issue too intensely. However, speaking of Australia, I like the fact there aren't guns here.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and one of the arguments I've seen when we've brought up, oh look, Australia has now barely any gun crime because we have no guns. People go, well, your violent crime rate is the same, and it's like, yeah, but the murder rate is lower. It's pretty hard to kill. Like, you have to really work to kill someone with like a stick or a pipe. Like, you really got to work at it.
The amount of violence that you see just in when you go out to a bar, when you go out to a club or a bar, like there's so much. Violence in the culture in Australia, in the drinking culture.
It really is.
And if you add guns into the mix of that, it's just going to go it's just going to blow out huge.
Yeah. And the thing with a gun is as well, a gun you can mess up a lot of people with a gun quite easily. Like,
well, here's a good example. I saw on the news not too long ago there was a couple guys got attacked by a group of men. Two of them were wielding machetes. Right, these two guys hacked at these other men who were just minding their own business with machetes, and one guy got cut in the face, another guy got cut in the arm. If you replace those machetes with guns, you would have had guaranteed 2 dead people.
Yeah,
not just a trip to the hospital and some stitches. You'd have had 2 dead people, possibly more, and then probably a shootout with the police.
Yeah. Like, and that is a point to remember, is even if the violent crime rate is the same, you really need to compare the actual murder rate, because it's very easy to kill someone with a gun.
Yeah.
Like, with a knife, even a knife, you've got to get a really good shot on someone. You've got to get it in a very specific place to kill someone.
Well, yeah. And if there's, like, you can't, like, one person cannot take out a group of people with a knife. It's just, I mean, you've got
unless you're like absolutely boss and they're complete noobs.
Yeah, unless they just don't defend themselves whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas a gun, you've got like 9 bullets for 1 clip. If you got 1 in the chamber and 8 in the magazine, that's you can pop a load of. And if you've got spare magazines, especially with a gun, the fear in a gun as well. People like someone running away from a gun. At least with a knife, you have to be in extremely close range to someone to hit them. But as soon as someone pulls a gun out, if everybody runs, you can still be shooting people who are running away. If you're in a knife, you get one person, everybody else has ran or like swarmed you and taken you out. So
a lot of the laws in Australia revolve around concealability as well. So if you've got a weapon which is concealable, it's considered a lot more malicious than one that's not.
Yeah, I have a good story about this actually. When I came back from Indonesia, I'd gone to this knife shop and I was like, man, I really want a knife. And there was this like half machete thing. I was like, this is really nice. Oh, I really want that. I was like, there's no way they're going to let me have that. So I brought a small flick blade and I was like, oh, this flick blade's fun. And I declared it at the airport because anybody who's ever considering traveling to Australia, don't fuck with Australian airport. Like,
yeah, comply with customs.
Australian customs are fucking nuts. Like, Australia has really nuts customs, which, you can understand with like our biodiversity and shit. But like, so basically, they looked at the knife and they're like, "No, you can't have this concealed weapon." And I was like, "Oh no!" I was just talking to the person because if you announce it up front, you get amnesty from what you're bringing in. Like if you go, "Oh, I've got this knife," and then they go, "Nah, it's illegal." You don't get charged or anything because you
declared it.
Yeah. So I declared it, and then I was talking to the person, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I was looking at this machete thing," and she was like, "You could have brought that in." I was like, "Why?" She's like, "It's not a concealed weapon, and it's a single-sided blade."
Yeah.
She was like, "Any single-sided blade you can basically bring through." She was like, "If it's double-sided or if it's concealed, we won't let it through." It's such a weird rule, but it makes more sense. Like if you're walking around with a machete out in the open, it's considerably different than to pulling a flick blade out.
Yeah, well, like the like you can get knives. You can buy knives from an army surplus store, which is like it's equivalent to a flick blade. Like it's a quick action fold out knife, which is the same level of lethality. You can't get ones which are double sided. That's the only issue. Which a single sided knife is still just as lethal.
Well, yeah, because in all honesty, when you think about it, making a single sided knife is kind of stupid because making it illegal. Sorry, I'm building a house right now with my girlfriend, and we're buying things for the house as it goes up. And we bought some kitchen knives, and she's all big about getting really fancy knives because her dad was a chef, and he's basically had these knives his whole life, and they're free lifetime sharpening and warranty, and they're Wusthof knives. Don't know if you've heard of Wusthof. So we bought these Wusthof knives, $500. But, yeah, I know, but they will last for the rest of our lives. Like they've got a lifetime free sharpening. If anything happens to them, you take them back and they replace them.
That's pretty cool.
And they're sharp as balls. Like I've never had sharp knives before. And it's like you're cutting an onion and you basically just place the knife on it and let gravity do the work and you just go straight through. It's like a lightsaber. It honestly feels like a lightsaber. And I'm like, look, you could mess someone up with a Wusthof knife. You just grab one of them and slice someone up. They're insane.
Yeah.
So I guess it doesn't make sense.
I mean, like you've got to draw lines. Like you can't say to people that you can't have chef's knives.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like
you go to a restaurant in Australia, it takes like 2 hours to get your food because they're sawing an onion with a rock.
At the end of the day, a pointy stick is a weapon. What it comes down to is, does it have a practical use? Is the practical use necessary?
And how much damage could you do with it if you decide to use it badly?
Yeah, and like a chef's knife's an easy one. Like you can't get rid of chef's knives. That's
no. The need is essential.
Yeah,
and the actual damage you can do with it, like don't get me wrong, you can mess someone up or a couple of people bad, but to kill multiple people, it's a big job.
Yeah.
Whereas a gun, it's point and shoot.
Yeah. Well, like yeah, I think that's the biggest issue is that. Like I said, I don't want to sound like I'm against firearms. I would love to have firearms in Australia. Like I would love to be able to,
I just don't trust other Australians with them.
And I'm happy to give up the right to own a firearm if it means that I can go out and feel safe. Like I'm more than willing to do that, and especially considering I can still use firearms in Australia. It's just the restrictions are so high.
Yeah.
And so like the opportunity is still there, but it's just hard to do. And I think that's like America maybe just needs to move a little bit more in that direction, not full swing, but just take a step in that direction of restricting firearms to certain people.
Well, yeah, I would agree. However, I don't really know America's situation well enough. I'm kind of hesitant because I can imagine our comment section is going to get pretty hacked from this, and if it does,
At the end of the day, I don't live in America. I'm not part of the gun culture, so I don't expect my opinion to be like I wouldn't enforce my opinion on people, but at the end of the day, we used to have quite lax gun laws in Australia, and then we had the Port Arthur massacre, and
we went from having I forgot how average it was. Average one mass shooting a month or something to no mass shootings in 13 years since it was.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're going to take an example, use Australia because I mean we were very much just like the Wild West as much as America was at one point, and then we just overnight everything changed pretty much.
Well, yeah, because it was kind of like I love the Jim Jeffries sketch where he's like, I can do drugs like a champion. He's like, but fucking Martha has to go and OD, and now her kid's dead. Like, now his kids are alone. Like,
somebody else ruins it for everybody else. But
you have to play to the lowest common denominator when it comes to society.
Yeah,
because all it takes is one person to fuck up, and you've done so much damage.
Yeah,
like. If you do the same thing with cars, like you restrict the usage of cars because they're extremely dangerous. And like if you have someone who doesn't know how to use a car and it isn't safe to operate that car driving around. And like we have restrictions on certain cars, like you can't drive a fucking Humvee through the center of the street because the thing takes up 2 lanes and it's going to damage other cars. You can't drive a tank. Like there's restrictions of road legal things because we base this on the necessity.
On practicality.
Yeah. And
it is a what is going to give us the best outcome.
And it's like you can very easily say you're a farmer and you live up north and you need them to shoot boars or whatever's up there, pigging and roos and stuff. You can apply for a gun and you can get one, but I think it's virtually impossible to get an automatic in Australia. But you can get like a good
semi-automatic weapons are quite easy to obtain if you're in the right circumstances. Like if you own property, and there's reason to own a firearm, it's quite easy to get one. But to get a fully automatic weapon is near impossible.
See, that amazes me when I look at America and I see people with like AR-15s and M4s, and I'm just like, geez.
I've seen less hardcore weapons on Call of Duty.
I know. It's insane. And you see them and they're almost always some really fat, bearded old white guy who's like, I'm a fight the government. It's like, dude, the government would fuck you up. Like,
well, that's another point I wanted to bring up. I love Ben Shapiro. I think he's really intelligent. I disagree with him on a lot of things, but he articulates his points logically and rationally. And just because I don't agree with him, I completely respect his intelligence and his argument for why Americans should have firearms. Was it the Second Amendment? The firearms?
Yeah,
the Second Amendment. His defense of that was the only reasonable one I've heard, which is the reason it was implemented in the first place was that if you need to rise up against your government, or if your government wants to take control, then the people have access to weapons to defend themselves and to defend their own freedoms, which makes absolute perfect sense when the government has,
when the
muskets.
government when the government doesn't have drones, because I see someone with an AR-15 being like, I'm a defender against the government. It's like, dude, drone strike. You will not. What are you going to do? You can't see it. It's so high up in the sky and it's reflective of light. It's basically bulletproof. It can just rain death down on you. The government with like one Predator drone could probably take out everybody in the country. It would just take a long time. Like it's just at this point, I don't find the argument very convincing purely because I think the government would fuck you up so easily if it wanted to. But as well, one of the points I made earlier was that the army is made up of people who have families and have jobs and all this. And I think, if the government did decide it's going to genocide everybody, there would be a very little chance that they could actually get the army to roll with it, or at least a large portion of it.
Well, like that's another argument, but the basic concept is that it's not like would an uprising by the American people be enough to overthrow the government if they militarized their control? And I just don't think it would be possible.
I think if you could mobilize enough Americans to overthrow the government, you could easily mobilize enough Americans politically to change things. Because you could create a third party, and if you could get the amount of people you would require to overthrow the American military, you'd need the vast majority of the population, and that way you could just vote in a third party that would just do whatever you wanted.
Well, you couldn't vote. Like the point is that democracy has collapsed, and that the government has foregone democracy for military control.
Jeez.
So that's the point. That's the whole purpose of it.
Well, then I guess now you do a cost benefit analysis of what is the likelihood of that happening versus the cost of always being allowed guns as a preparation for it. And I think the chances of the American government throwing democracy completely out of the window and becoming a military state is pretty low, and the cost of having a high availability to extremely dangerous weapons is quite high. So,
for me, the issue is quite clear, but I understand why it's not clear to other people.
No, I can understand. And you know what argument resonates with me as well? Freedom. Just that
Yeah.
it's a thing. I want the liberty to use it. I can use it responsibly, and I should get it. I understand that. I completely understand someone who says, I use my gun responsibly. I want to use I like my gun. I shoot cans out the back after I've had sex with my sister. No, I'm joking.
Now we're gonna get it.
I'm not joking. No, but I understand that argument, the argument from liberty. Like, I really do get that, and I value liberty very highly. However, I really value not dying. Like, I enjoy not being dead. I don't even, I haven't been dead before, so I don't really significantly know the difference. But I envision it would not be as enjoyable as life.
Well, the whole point of like a social infrastructure is to create an environment where people can cohesively like interact and live. If you like, that kind of falls apart when you say that everybody has the freedom to do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah, you just have to restrict freedoms at some point.
Like it's like total libertarianism is just ridiculous. Like it is the Wild West. I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want.
I don't remember who I saw the conversation between, but it was with a libertarian, and one of the questions they asked was like, how do roads get built? And he's like, people just fund it themselves. It's like, so, but then everybody owns land. So he's like, you have to get permission from the landowners for each landowner throughout the duration of the road.
Can you own land if you're
pure libertarian? He was saying you buy your land and you own it, and it's just yours, and it's basically like your own.
What stops somebody from taking it?
He was basically saying like public militia.
The hilarious thing about this is when you break down society, like if you use pure libertarianism to break down the boundaries of society, then what you get is a necessity of people creating their own little individual societies to survive.
So it's like we're going to work together to defend you from marauders. It's like, hey, like a police force. Yeah. It's like the episode of Family Guy when they abolish the government, and then Peter stands out the front. He's going, so we're going to have to elect some people because we can't all constantly be doing stuff. Yeah. We're going to need to pay some people to build roads.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, no, that looks a bit like a government right there. But yeah, so that was a segue into gun control.
Oh yeah, I can't remember how we started on that, but
Australian politics.
It has nothing to do with gun control.
Yeah, I know. Actually, to speak about that, there's a hunters and shooters and fishers party.
Yeah, shooting and fishing party.
That's on the Australian ballot, and they're basically one position is repeal gun control.
I think we could look into making the laws slightly more lapsed, and I mean very slightly. And I think, because I don't think you should restrict firearms completely. And I think, like, if you want to use a firearm for hunting, that's fine. But you need control. You need control of firearms.
Yeah, exactly.
It's essential. So I'm fairly happy with the current laws.
I'm very happy with them. On it, like, I am comfortable with the fact that I don't worry that somebody's carrying a gun. Like, I'm very comfortable with that. And we've both done a lot of training in hand-to-hand combat.
Well,
and that makes me feel that now I feel if someone came up to me with a knife and was like, "I'm going to mess you up," I've got a decent chance of coming out of this okay. Whereas like a gun, if someone comes up to me and is like, "I'm gonna blow you away," I'm just like, well,
that's there I go.
I watched The Matrix a couple of times. Maybe I could lean backwards and dodge bullets. But like the concept of fighting someone with a knife, like if you're willing to get cut, you can kind of deal with it. If you've explained it to me before, which is when you grab something, you're like, oh, it's going to cut my hand. Well, not dead. Grab it at the blade and just start going for it.
I've done quite a lot of knife and weapons fighting stuff, and basically the understanding I have going, if somebody comes up to me with a knife on the street, is chances are I'm going to end up with the knife. The only question is how badly do I get messed up in the meantime? Am I going to die later on from my wounds? Am I going to lose all feeling in my hand and function of my wrists? Like, because it's not like I'm no
Jason Bourne.
yeah, I'm no Jason Bourne or Steven Seagal.
Steven Seagal.
All I know is the risk versus reward when dealing with somebody with a knife, and it's like the odds of getting away with your life are much higher if you know what you're doing compared to somebody, or even if you don't know what you're doing, compared to somebody with a gun. I mean, it's just point and shoot.
Well, especially because if someone has a knife, essentially all you have to do is outrun them.
Well, yeah.
Whereas, like a gun, you can't outrun a bullet.
Mm.
And, you know, and there are instances where, you know, I would have a similar confidence if someone walked up to me and put a gun directly to my forehead, because then you can grab the gun and react faster than they can act. But if someone's standing like 2 meters away from you, it's like, well, it's not good now.
Yeah, I think the point is that it's just guns. They're a game changer in terms of freedoms. Like you can't, you know, they need special consideration.
Well, you know, as well, one point I would like to make is you grant someone freedom to give them a gun, but that gun gives someone the ability to take someone else's freedom. Yeah. So me getting shot by someone greatly restricts my freedom to not get shot. And that's a huge point, because now that possibility exists, which, you know, I look at the stories in the USA, and it makes me cringe in that I couldn't imagine when there's multiple shootings every single day, and not shootings as in like 50 people, but there are gun crimes every single day in America. I remember reading something that there was at least one shooting of more than 3 people at once a day.
There's that many shootings that a lot of them just don't get reported.
Yeah, exactly. And I couldn't imagine living in a society where I'm like, well, maybe some shooting's gonna happen today. Like that does freak me out. So
I want to play devil's advocate a little bit on this.
Go ahead.
Like, because I don't have a desire to own a firearm, so it's easy for me to say the gun laws are fine.
I do have to say this. I've been shooting before, and it was a fantastic feeling. To hold a gun and I got it was a standard Glock. My girlfriend actually took me shooting it was a present, and it was awesome. So they gave us a gun, and so I did a couple of standard shots, and then I put a clip in and just unloaded a clip as fast as I could into the target. It was a fantastic feeling. So I understand, like, oh man, if I could have one of those bad boys and know that no one else was going to misuse them, I'd have it in a heartbeat. I got to shoot I really wanted to shoot a deagle, but I got to do a shotgun as well, like a big ass shotgun,
like a 12 gauge.
Oh, dude, that was fun. That was really fun. That target didn't stand a chance. I shredded it.
So now you're making me reconsider all of my points. No, what I mean is, like, there are probably more arguments for why somebody should have a weapon that I can't think of, because it's not of that great interest to me. So if anybody has
go ahead.
Some reasons why they think firearms should be more available or as available as they are in the United States, just leave a comment. And
I would love to actually I'd love to read what people think about this, even if they disagree with us and think that that's not what
I would prefer people who disagree.
Yeah, because that's not one of those things where I'm going to go into the comment section and argue with people. That's one of those things where I'm going to be like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. That's
cool suggestion. Thanks for that. But I can actually tell you exactly where this tangent came from, which was compulsory voting.
Yes.
So now I was asking you what you thought about compulsory voting. So to avoid the chance of a second tangent, I'll just hammer out exactly. I think compulsory voting is a good thing. Overall.
Well, I'm probably unconvinced either way.
Okay, well, I'll lay a case for you and see what you think.
Okay.
So studies will show that poor people disproportionately don't vote. So basically, when you don't have compulsory voting, you get the ratio of the statistical representation of the sample of poor people compared to rich people that vote is really thrown out of whack when it's non-compulsory. because a lot of poor people, so people in the lower economic classes, aren't politically aware and don't really care. The same as in Australia, they don't care and wind up donkey voting, which is a pretty good argument against it.
I was about to make that one, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But so the compulsory voting, it makes poor people at least have their word. And even if the people in the lower socioeconomic class waste it, they still had an input. Whereas in the USA, for example, the lower socioeconomic turnout versus the higher economic, this may have changed because this was old statistics I was looking at, but basically a higher percentage of people in the higher classes vote compared to the lower ones. So you wind up with people who it probably actually affects the most not voting, or not voting in the same in proportion to their the amount they are in the population, because there's a lot, the majority of people are middle class and below, but then that huge chunk isn't mobilizing like the upper class chunk is when it comes to voting. And generally, for example, virtually every rich person in Australia is voting for the right-wing government, because they do huge cuts to the upper. Basically, they're really good for the wealthy people.
Higher end tax cuts, yeah.
Higher end tax cuts and basically incentives, and they basically donate $50 billion a year to mining industries when they don't need it. But that, and if poor people, and if it wasn't compulsory, the low economic classes may not fight against that, which honestly, its efficacy is a different discussion. I think in principle and the idea, it makes sense, but it does allow a lot of donkey voting, which I discussed before when someone was like, put the marijuana party first and then just randomly did it afterwards. Let's go get a sausage sizzle.
Or they draw cocks all over their ballot.
That is super common in Australia. That is so common, drawing dicks on your ballot. So you just, because obviously they can't make you do a good vote. So you can just turn up, they give you a sheet of paper, they mark your name off the roll, and you just draw dicks all over it.
I'm sure the same thing happens in America.
But it's non-compulsory voting, so I don't know why you'd bother to turn up. I don't know why you'd bother to turn up just to draw a dick on it.
It wouldn't surprise me if some people did, to be honest.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't.
But yeah, no, I think that's some good points. And
also, if you don't vote, the fine in Australia is only $20.
Is it? I thought it was more than $20.
$20. I looked it up last night.
Okay,
so it's not like you're going to jail if you don't vote. It's $20.
Yeah, you can get out of it fairly easy as well if you just come up with a good excuse. But
yeah,
I think
I got the AIDS.
It just encourages people to get out and vote, and I think that's the important thing, because what you need to do is encourage people to be involved in the political process,
to be engaged.
Yeah, and it's like a forced vote basically forces people to be there. It doesn't force people to take consideration of what's happening. That doesn't.
At least if they're forced that they know they're going to vote, they may at least put some effort into going, oh, well, who am I going to vote for? Maybe because honestly, 30 minutes of browsing on the internet on your phone to be like, oh, who can I vote for the night before the election can actually go a far way.
It can do,
depending on the quality of the discourse that is out there. But like, for example, on Facebook this morning, I shared a link to this thing called Vote Compass, which
I had to go on that.
Vote Compass, basically, I'm sure everybody has done that political compass thing, the thing where, that quiz where it gives you the, I'll find it as we're talking, but basically, do you want to explain what Vote Compass is whilst I look this up?
Yeah, so Vote Compass is essentially, it's an app which is it's just a questionnaire which asks your position either from strongly disagree to strongly agree and everything in between on just various political issues. And then it associates those your answers with the relevant party. So whichever political party agrees with your position, it will then give you a kind of a ranking as to where you sit on the political compass, I guess.
Yeah.
So I had to go over it this morning before I went and voted, and it put me as almost smack bang in the middle, which is but just slightly leaning to the left, which is exactly where I thought I was. and it's a good idea of gauging where you sit, because it asks you, various questions like where do one example was, do you believe marriage should be between a man and a woman? And I clicked strongly disagree.
Yeah. And a good thing, an awesome thing about Vote Compass as well is it makes you answer questions like economic questions, which some people don't care about. And then afterwards you can go through, I don't know whether you did this, if you went through and you weight your questions. So once it gives you your answers, it gives you the options to weigh your questions, which I think it should make you do before it gives you the answer. And basically it goes through all these topics and goes, how important are these topics to you? And if you put industry really low, it basically reduces the points that all the questions they asked you about industry have on your overall thing. So if you don't give a crap about industry and economics, you really just care about social issues, it will buff up the points it gives in your social issues, because it knows you don't give a crap about industry, so it doesn't really matter. They shouldn't pick a party based on their industry policies.
Okay, so
because I did that afterwards and it skewered me further left as well.
Okay, how far left did you end up?
Oh man, I wound up really okay. So here's this Vote Compass thing I found for the Australian one here. Let's see if I can get in here. So we've got the Liberal National Party here. Then so the Australian Labor Party and the Greens up there. I actually don't think this image is accurate. I think Greens would probably be about here, and Labor would probably be about here, and Liberal would probably be about there. Where were you? Like here?
Yeah, around about there.
Around there. I'm about here.
Okay.
I'm pretty left. So yeah, one of the things that really geared me back was one of the questions asked, should there be quotas for male and female jobs?
Oh, God.
And I was like, no, there shouldn't be quotas. That's retarded. And that was like, oh, you're right wing. I'm like, that one pulled me a bit further across. But basically, this is kind of what it looks like. And you wind it with the Greens. And it only gives you, this is my problem with Vote Compass, it only gives you parties that could reasonably get a seat. And in Australia, it's basically the Liberals, the Labor, and Greens that can get seats. There's a couple of crossbench seats up for grabs, but not really. But there's like, if you look at the ballot, there are a lot of people on the ballot. Like there's how many were on the Senate ballot, do you reckon? Like 21? Like it was over 20.
Yeah, probably I'd say easily over 20.
Yeah, so there were over 20 parties you could vote for, and it's a shame that Vote Compass only really gives you. However, basically I shared on Facebook Vote Compass and was like, look, if everybody going to polls today, do this. It takes 10 minutes. It'll let you know who best represents you, so you're not donkey voting. And I think they're really good things, the Vote Compasses. Now, I had this idea, which I think might be good discussing now. So we've outlined that compulsory voting is good if people are engaged.
Yeah. I still have a couple of things I want to say about that. So, like, the point is like what we want to achieve is the public's engagement in the political process. And the question you've got to ask is that achieved with compulsory voting? And another question that you need to ask then is, well, obviously you're going to have more people voting if there's compulsory voting. Particularly in the lower economic classes, like you said. But the question is are their votes more relevant, or are they just donkey voting in
because that is the
same
problem.
Proportion?
Like in Australia, we have a lot of parties that are they are solely based off the name as to why you vote for them, like the Shooters and Fishers,
the Sex Party.
We have the Sex
Marijuana Party.
We have the Sex Party, the Marijuana Party. Health Party Australia, which Health Party Australia were actually an anti-vaccine group that called themselves Health Party Australia. And I've seen
very misleading. Yeah, I've
seen people on my Facebook today going, I voted for the Health Party Australia, and people commenting going, they're anti-vaxxers, and people going, no! And that's the problem, because people aren't knowledgeable about the political system, so they're going in and just doing it off names. And what does a name mean? There's the Social Democrats in Australia, and they're actually a complete libertarian party. or which it's a similar name to that, which they sound like Bernie Sanders, but they're actually a complete libertarian who's like, we should abolish the existence of everything except for road building and the military.
Which causes a question why they would name themselves that.
Purely for like the Liberal Democrats last election picked up a seat because people thought they were voting for the Liberals. It's ridiculous, and that's part of the problem, is that you get people who turn up, and because it's everybody's got to vote, they can put low effort parties like that and still pick up a seat. Like last election, the Motorist Party won a seat. It was just because I like driving my car.
What was the Motorist Party about?
No, cars. They were the and that person, the guy who ran that was one of, because Australia had both the Liberal, so currently until by the time you actually see this won't be current because the election will have happened and the results will out. But basically, as of today, which is Saturday, both parties didn't really have a huge amount of power because they lost a large portion of the vote to third parties. So we had a crossbench, which was basically going, you live, you die, you live, you die, to basically policies, and they were the deciders. And this fucking motorist guy was the person who was deciding whether universities were deregulated in Australia and whether co-payments were passed on healthcare. Like, he was the deciding vote because these other guys, the Liberal and Labor, were just, Labor said no and Liberal said yes, and then they had to get the crossbench to agree to get over 50%. And the Greens said no, but then there were these, like, a huge portion of crossbenchers who they were just haggling with.
Jeez.
And the motorist guy was one of these dudes, and it's like, why are you here? Like, you can imagine if the shooters and fishers win, and it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do about healthcare? Give me guns. Like, it's a joke. Like, and when you've got a compulsory system like ours, it encourages low effort.
It does.
Just low effort.
It does.
Now, is there anything else you wanted to say before I got on to my?
I suppose you can go into that now. I just think, because you were arguing, I can't tell with what you were arguing for now, because you were arguing before, it felt like for compulsory.
Yeah, I'm really flailing around here.
Yeah. Which I'm on both sides of this. I'm inconvinced.
I honestly think overall I think compulsory voting is a good thing, but I can see a lot of arguments against it.
Yeah.
But I can also see a lot of arguments for it. And I think this is one of those things where there actually is pros and cons on both sides. And I think having everybody at least, I would be confident in betting that political engagement in Australia would be higher than that of the USA.
You reckon?
Yeah. There's people in America who are, but you look at what's America, what's a voter turnout in America? Like, it's people winning by like 40%, or like, it's very small amounts of people, like, not very small amounts of people, but small amounts of people respectively actually turning up to the elections, and they're the ones making the decisions. Let's see if I'm trying to look it up, but it's actually kind of hard to double task. But basically, maybe not. But the point is, I think I'm confident that we would have a higher engagement than countries that don't have compulsory voting, purely because you have to go and you have to vote. So at least people are going to put the minimal amount of effort to learn the names of someone they're voting for. Like, a lot of people don't, I'll grant that, but I bet a higher percentage do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm at this point I'm stuck on the compulsory voting. I think it is an overall benefit. But I think you could change that very easily with some like just promotion of political discourse. Like, if you made it more, I mean, obviously it's public as it is, but you need to do something to promote the engagement of the public in the discourse.
Yeah, because the problem is you get, again, what I was saying before, because it's compulsory voting, the political systems go very low effort. Both parties do. You just have to look at the guy defending now, Malcolm Turnbull, the right wing guy. He's basically just every advert is him going jobs and growth, jobs and growth. Go with me for jobs and growth. Not once describing how he's actually going to achieve jobs and growth. He's just jobs and growth. And it's like, okay, how? I don't have to describe how. Like, he doesn't have to, because the percentage of the population that go, okay, well, how? And he doesn't outline it. And they go, well, that's stupid. I'm not voting for you. That's much less than people who go, I like jobs and growth. I'm going to vote for you. Like, I want jobs. I want growth. It's great. Yeah. Like, considering his government completely wrecked the growth that we had going on. Like, Australia had a really good growth to GDP, and very shortly after they took over, it just plummeted. You know, jobs and growth, and considering unemployment went up a very large amount when they were in power. Jobs and growth, at least evidence-wise, is the opposite of what they are. But that doesn't matter. He just has to say jobs and growth. And even on the other side, Labour, the more left-wing party, have been saying Liberals going to privatise Medicare. So privatize the healthcare system, which they're technically not. And I had an argument about this with a couple of friends the other day, which is one of them was going, oh, well, have you seen the Mediscare? And was going that he was basically going, Labour's full of shit. And I was like, well, they're not completely full of shit. Like, no, they're not going to privatize it in the sense that they're going to sell out to Monsanto or whoever to just be like, you now run the government, Holden, and like car company now runs the healthcare system. Like, no, it's not going to happen. But they do attempt things like they reduce the funding, they reduce the rebate amount, and they reduce what medications are covered by Medicare. And these are all things that they're calling it privatization because it takes a lot of time. So you can either have an advert where Bill Shorten goes 30 seconds, he rackets off a couple of things, he goes, they're going to privatize Medicare. Or you can have him do a 15-minute advert where he explains the intricacy of health funding and then goes, look, they're not literally privatizing it, but what they're doing is they're increasing the amount of contribution you have to have explains the way. That's a hard thing to explain.
It is, but
I think he should. I'm not saying he should do this. Like, he should have to explain it properly. But the problem is, if they start playing the game honestly, the other guys will win. Yeah, the other guys will clean up too easy because they won't play. It's like if you're gonna have a fight to the death with someone and you go, okay, no kicking in the balls, and they kick you in the balls instantly, and you're like, well, I'm not gonna kick you in the balls because honor. Like, no, if you both actually don't kick each other in the balls, that's all well and good. But in a fight to the death, one of you is going to kick the other in the balls.
When it comes down to it, whoever pulls the cheap shots is going to come out on top.
Yeah, exactly.
And the only way you can change that is if you increase the level of engagement from the public and the discourse to the point where the public then recognizes it.
Yeah.
And then...
because all it would take is the public to get informed on how what exactly they're doing, what exactly they want to do. But the problem is, and I see this a lot I think this is common in politics all over the world, Labour clearly, to make the healthcare system affordable, want to increase the Medicare levy so that the tax we pay on that. They clearly want to do it. Now, they won't admit it. And Liberal clearly want to put in a co-payment, which means you basically have to go quartersies or halvesies on all your medical fees.
Yeah.
Now, if Labour go, okay, we want to increase the Medicare levy to make it affordable, Liberal aren't going to go, well, we want to do a co-payment. Which one do you prefer? They're going to go, oh, they're increasing your taxes and not say anything else. And then Labour's just going to get destroyed in the polls and lose the election. And that's the problem. If I wish politics worked like two groups, every group going, here's what we're going to do. Boom, 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 boom. Here's the policies. And you walk in and you go, I don't like those ideas. I'm going to go for the other guys. And then other people go, I like those ideas. But it becomes like, you look at Trump, like a lot of things Trump has been saying, which is basically, how are you going to deal with these things? And he's got a wait and see attitude where it's like, I'll tell you when I'm in. It's like, we're going to have the best people working on it. It's going to be huge. Like, I don't think politics should be like that. It should be before an actual, here's all the stuff I want to do. Like with Hillary Clinton, you have no idea what she wants to do.
No.
Like she's all over the shop, and someone made a compilation video on YouTube of Hillary contradicting herself. It goes for like 16 minutes of just her going. It's just endlessly flip-flopping everywhere, and you have no idea what she wants, and that, I think, that kills the purpose of politics.
Well, no, because I think the problem there is that the purpose of politics at this point in time is to get elected, and that's it. There is no other goal. Obviously you have to please the public to a degree, but only enough to survive as a politician. And the aim of the game in politics is to get elected, and if that's the case, then you're always going to have this. This is just natural selection. That's all it is. What you need to create some sort of policy, or you need
you need to increase engagement. You need to increase people to actually put some kind of effort into what they're going to do.
Well, I think there's two ways you could go about it. You could increase the public, increase the knowledge and of the public, so that they could make correct decisions and they could spot these issues. But or you could change the structure of politics as it is, which obviously is going to be a much more difficult task. So I would be more for
informing the public
rather than changing democracy.
Yeah. So I had this idea which I discussed with you earlier, which I might lay out here, and we can kind of bounce it around a bit. So I thought what you could do is, because voting, we were in and out. How quick were we in and out? How quick were we in and out of there? We got there at like 11:20, and we were out by about 11:40. So
yeah, about 20 minutes.
Yeah, so it's about 20 minutes to turn up and vote. And in Australia, we always have votes on the weekend, which they actually don't have in America. It's during weekdays. I think Tuesdays a lot of the time. So a lot of poor people, again, low economic, have to work, so they can't go to the election. But anyway, so it takes 20 minutes. And like, if you're not engaged in politics at all, I'm just watching you.
So I'm just messing around with my pop filter here. It's just collapsing on me.
You ruined everything.
It's all coming down now.
You ruined the podcast. You know what? I'm sorry. This
is it.
Shut down. No. So basically, we were out there in 20 minutes. If you don't put any effort into learning about politics, you can be in and out of there in 20 minutes and have just donkey voted like a turd. So I think, and you were initially saying things like we can make it so you have to do something to get elected, like a certain giving back to the community or something. And I think there's some merit there, but I wouldn't do that. And my throwback to this was, what you can do is you can make people do, you can get the ABC, so basically the public funded media, so there's no private funding, so they're not getting skewered or less likely to get skewered. They're the ones that create Vote Compass, and they should create a Vote Compass that incorporates every party in your state. And you should answer these questions, and it should then churn out, it should give a printout underneath that gives you, here's your top 10 or something we predict based on your questions. And boom, and it gives you a couple of reasons why. And once you've done that, you walk over to the election person and go, okay, here's mine, and then you can vote. Because what you've done then is you've turned up, and it's asked you loads of political questions like, where do you stand on this? Where do you stand on this? Where do you stand on this? And it's designed by political analysts who say, these are the people who are most likely to represent your views. Now, you can either just vote as according to that sheet, which would be considerably better than someone just donkey voting. Like,
this, or voting based on the name of the party.
Yeah, it would be considerably better because, for example, if you would put a question in there going, do you think vaccines give under autisms? And when you put no to that, it just eliminated Health Party Australia because they are an anti-vax party. And you can it would take some work, but they're going to have to put some effort in. And then you turn up, you go to the booth, the first booth, you fill out that questionnaire, it takes 20 minutes maybe, you get that little print off, you go to the roll, you get your name checked off, and they won't check your name off and give you the stuff until you've got this and you put your name in. And until you have that with your name on it, they won't let you vote. And that means we could have still been in and out of there in 45 minutes. But now we would have, a bare minimum, if we didn't do any engagement in politics, we would have given exactly what we value, and there would have been a prediction based, here's what party is most, these are the parties that are most likely to represent you. Now, if you vote based on teams, which is a huge thing in Australia, which is like, I'm the liberal, it's a huge thing in all politics, honestly, but I'm the liberal team. And it's like, no matter what, you're just going to vote for this party because they're your team.
That's something I really hate is the labels of, you know, I'm Labor, Liberal, Republican, Democrat, all these things.
Yeah, it's stupid. You should vote based on the issues the party presents each time. I would vote for the Liberal Party, which is the right-wing party. I need to keep pointing that out because that's super confusing. I would vote for the right-wing party here if they had policies. If they turned around and were like, here's my policies, and I agree with them, I'd be like, yep, no, I'll switch over now. Like, it doesn't bother me in the slightest. I don't vote based on name at all, but a huge number of people do. And if you do that, you can do this questionnaire and it can go, hey, your best interests are the Greens. And you can go, nope, I vote Liberal, and you can do it anyway. You don't have to listen to it. But at bare minimum, I think it would greatly increase.
It forces you to acknowledge, so like the policies of who you're voting for.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing, is because a lot of people just don't know the policies. They're just not informed on it.
Well, considering a huge number of people on my Facebook were like, I voted for Health Party Australia. And then there's just people commenting going, they're anti-vaxxers. And then be like, no, what shit? It's like, well, there you go. That wouldn't have happened with the vote compass. Now, the only issue I think with mine becomes, you know, who makes that questionnaire.
I think it just reeks of so much potential for corruption, and just to be manipulated. And at the same time,
you could kind of set it up like a peer reviewing system, where you could get a group, because political analysts wrote the Australian Vote Compass. And then what you could do is you could get that group, or expand them a bit because they're going to need to do a huge amount of work. You could get them to fill it in, and then you could send it to multiple political analysts, and you could get them to go, why have you picked this party aligned here for that question? There's no good reason. You could even send it to the parties beforehand, so it could be done 6 months. They could dispute issues and go, look, you've put us down for not being good on renewables, but we're mad good on renewables, blah, blah, blah. Maybe have an argument with them and see if you could win there. But I think there's ways you could make it so that it's good enough, I guess. Yeah. But I don't think it's going to be perfect. But it's
going to be a step up.
It's going to be a huge step up. A huge step. Because at least if someone turns up and goes, I don't give a shit about politics, turns up and goes, well, I got to fill this in. Fills it in and goes, here's your 6. And they go, yeah, okay. And just fill that in. At bare minimum, they're most likely going to get best represented by who they voted for. More likely than if they voted based on name, and more likely than if they voted based on, this is my team.
Yeah.
Like, at bare minimum, it's going to do a better job.
I think the biggest problem is still the cultural mentality of Australian voters. Like, because I could just foresee so many people like that dude going, I voted for the marijuana party because I love marijuana. Like those type of people are still going to come in and just go, when the questions come up, just go disagree, or agree, or whatever. They're just not going to pay attention to it anyway, because they just want to get in and out. They don't give a crap. And that is the issue, is you need to get people to give a crap.
Those people, at least if I'm going to defend my idea here, those people are going to do the exact same thing if you remove the system. So those people...
Well, that's my point. Like, is it going to...
But if you can get 20% of Australians that wouldn't have made an informed vote before to make a better vote, that's a huge jump.
Yeah, actually, I agree on that. That's
all it has to do. Say right now, I would guess... maybe 30% of Australians maybe 30% of Australians actually politically know more than just, this is my team. I would put that as my number. If anybody goes, where'd you get your numbers? I literally just pulled that out my ass. So, yeah. But let's run with that. I think we have about 30% right now, and then let's say we have another 30% who vote based on stupid reasons, like oh, this is what the advert said. I vote for this team.
I like his name.
This guy's a cunt. Not going to vote for him. Like, and then you've got the rest. So now we've got 30. I got another 30. So then we've got 40% who just turn up and either donkey or just draw dicks on it, or just go, oh, that's the name.
Yep.
Or just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 from the start. Now, if you can get half of everybody out, if you can get a quarter of everybody, if you can get out of that, so out of the 70% that I'm saying aren't well informed, if you can get 20% of them, or 20% of the absolute number, so now you got 50% informed, that's almost double.
I think that's optimistic numbers, but any kind of improvement whatsoever.
5%.
Yeah.
I'll take 5%. 5% in this election, because the polls right now are like virtually 50-50.
Yeah.
That's a win. That's informing them properly would basically win this election. Because that's one thing people got to remember as well. A lot of elections are won by margins of 10 points or less. So if it can make 5% of people make not donkey votes or draw dicks on it, I think it's a huge impact. And for example, I've been trying to get my sister to fill out Vote Compass and be like, because she didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, no, look, it's your first election. You're going to be entering the housing market soon. You're going to be entering the job market when you finish university. This is a big election for you. Look, just Vote Compass will take 10 minutes. You'll know what to do. And she's just like, no, not going to do it. And she's going to turn up and probably draw dicks on it.
I feel like that is the general mentality of most Australians.
Yeah. Now, if she had to do it, I bet you any money, if she had to do the Vote Compass and it gave her those top 6, she would just put those top 6 in. And that would best represent her. Because now she hasn't just wasted a vote. She's gone, oh, look, here's my top 6. Well, I answered the questions honestly, that it'll probably... Like, she just can't be bothered putting the time aside to do the Vote Compass because she doesn't care. But if you have to do it anyway, she's going to listen to it because she doesn't care. So at bare minimum, the system will at least work out what she wants and what she likes, and then make a recommendation based on that. And that is better than her just not voting because she can't be bothered.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good idea.
Well, Malcolm Turnbull or Bill Shorten, if you guys, I'm assuming you guys are listening to this right now because we are the most important part of Australia. But yeah, I just love messing with that. But yeah, so we're awesome, and I'm sure they're listening. So implement that, make it happen.
Yeah, I think that warrants further discussion. I would like to come away, think about that, and come up with some other ideas and stuff around that. Maybe.
Yeah, that'd be a really cool idea. I actually, I would see if we're going to try for the next podcast start getting guests on. And I reckon we could. I'm going to try and approach some political people in Australia. How do you want to call it? The Greens have been fairly interactive.
The Greens would, because the Greens are desperate. No, the Greens love engaging.
Well, because they thrive on the youth vote.
Yeah, they do.
And the youth are on the internets, so...
They might question the fact our lack of subscribers, though.
Hey, look, you know what?
We're growing fast. But
we're growing. By the next election...
That's a good point, actually. By the next election, so that's 3 years from now.
Yeah. I'm hoping... I don't want to say a number, because if in 3 years' time I don't reach it, I know someone's going to throw it back in my face and be like, hey, look, you're a failure.
But no, I think the Greens should be willing, at least.
And some of the Labour ones would.
Yeah.
Liberal would.
No, Liberal don't care.
But that's fine. Like, I would bet... You know what? I'm actually really interested in this. If anybody's watching, let me know what... So if you did the political compass, generally where you fall. I would be really interested in seeing where our audience falls on this.
Yeah.
Because I fall very far left, and I forgot what the other option is with the political compass.
It would be awesome to get some metadata from the political compass.
The Australian one does it. Vote Compass.
Yeah. Yeah,
it actually does with that, like where Australians fall, and it uses it for polling. So with the political compass, you've got, if I throw this over, so yeah, you've got authoritarian to libertarian and left to right. So usually when I do this, I fall about here, if you guys can see there. So I'm very far left and quite into that libertarian, but honestly, the word libertarian isn't quite the same as the Libertarian Political Party. Yeah. But I would be really interested in knowing where you guys generally fall on this. I would be interested to see if any of our audience are in this authoritarian right. I'm guessing no, but you never know. Because I know you, Jay, probably fall about here.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
You heathen. you have no.
I'm full libertarian. Put me bottom left corner.
Bottom left. It's just, God, that's insane. But yeah, so that's kind of the point where. Yeah, I actually forgot what I was saying there. But yeah, no, I remember. Yeah, so I'd be really interested in knowing where you guys fall, because that's really interesting to me.
It would be good to know where, like, what our audience is comprised of in terms of political views and things like that. We can obviously make a guess, but
I could make a poll actually. I could throw a poll into this, and it could be there could be 4 options, which would be your left authoritarian, your it would be kind of hard to do. I'll have a think about it.
It's a scale, so it would be difficult to do. But you could say just whereabouts you fall, just get a general idea.
Yeah, I could set that up. Like I might do that if I can be bothered. But that's the huge if there. But yeah, so because I think that would be quite interesting to see. Vote or die. So, can you think of anything else Australian election wise before we move on to some other stuff?
No, I think we covered it. We went on quite a few tangents there, so
yeah. Well, it's funny because we Australian politics, and I looked and I was like, oh, we can go into probably about an hour and 10 minutes, and I was like, well, half hour that was gun control.
I think gun controls. We brought it back to Australia, so I kind of it's not really relevant to Australians in any way, well, except for the shooting and fishing party.
I reckon they'll pick up a seat somewhere.
The shooting and fishing party.
Yeah, I reckon. I can see it happening.
Like I don't. I'll be honest. I don't know much about their policies, but just I can take a guess, and
you'd probably be right.
Well, like I've got no problems in like decreasing the regulations on firearms to a degree. Like they're fairly strict right now, and I don't think increasing availability of firearms is going to be a huge problem. It just depends how far they're going to take it. And and there's obviously I'm assuming they've got some points to make.
I'm pretty sure from what I've read of them that they want to be before Howard removed gun control. That's what they want.
They want to go back that far.
Yeah.
Okay. Fuck them. Fuck no.
So there you go. So what we'll talk about now, I think we'll just. By the way, hopefully everybody's enjoying our audio. I think we've finally solved the problems. The volume should be great. There should be no white noise going.
The white noise. The white noise was the bane of our existence for some time.
You guys do not know how hard we fought that. Oh my god! We went through 2 different interfaces, a mixer, another mixer.
We've got to put it in perspective. Myself and R are not audio technicians by any stretch of the word.
No. I'm a physiologist. I look at a mixer and I'm just like, there's some buttons on there.
And we had a friend come in and have a look at it, and we were still struggling. But yes, we solved it, and the glory was magnificent.
And it was funny because we actually solved it by putting it on an external USB hub, and we'd been sitting here for probably about 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours, and it was still giving all the white noise. And I was like, fuck it, just put a hub on it. I don't know why. Let's just do it. Put it on, white noise disappears. And I was like, oh, well, that's because there's a transducer on it which stops the backflow of electricity, which was probably causing that white noise. And I was like, oh,
simple fix. Many hours of stress.
Yeah, I know. Well, sorted now. So let's talk about our video, the climate change video.
Oh, back to the climate change one.
Yes, let's take a talk about that. So it's the fossil fuels, climate change, and stupidity with PragerU. So if you guys haven't seen it, It may actually be worth pausing the video now and going and watching it.
I think most of our subs would have seen it, if not all of them, because it is. Is it our most watched video now?
Yeah, 8,300 views.
Yeah, so it kicked off. When did it kick off? It just like kind of exploded.
Yeah, June 15th. So yeah, I don't know what happened. It just suddenly went nuts.
Somebody's probably shared it to a climate change denial side or something like that.
And it just exploded. Now, if you guys want to go and argue with some climate change people, go back to that video, take a look at the comment section, and just go nuts, because there are a lot of them in there.
I don't think it's that much.
Are you serious? There are so many. There are so many. Like, you went away for a week, so
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I disappeared
that week. They were going absolutely. They were going mad. Like, they were going absolutely mad. Like, there was. Oh my God! There's.
Just like, can't even vocalize.
There's 509 comments on that video.
Is there?
Yes.
Oh.
I'm looking at it right now. The numbers. Yeah, 509.
How many dislikes?
So yeah, that's the thing. The dislike ratio has really shot up. It's got 550 likes to 209 dislikes.
209 dislikes. So we can say maybe
it's about
a third of those comments were probably.
I reckon more.
Denials.
I reckon more. Like, engagement of people who are going, yeah, they're stupid, is much less than people who are going, yeah, you did that climate change. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, the people who the climate deniers are far more vocal than the other ones.
So let's talk about what they were saying. And
yeah, so I stand by that video.
Oh yeah,
like completely. The criticisms seem to be. There's a comment I actually want to read because it is. I think it embodies perfectly what these people have been. So Danocho or something. Yeah, I'm going to say the name out. What of it? So he goes, these idiots have no grasp of the most basic economics. I live in a developing nation, and even though 70% of our energy is hydroelectric, the fossil fuel industry has done wonders raising entire communities out of crippling poverty. The only damage done to our lush ecosystem is when the socialist, bracket, which is so popular with environmentalists, close bracket, guerrillas blow up the pipelines and cause an oil spill in the name of social justice. I didn't actually realize that before. That's a weird sentence. And he was like, let me ask you a question. Where will you get the money to buy these extremely inefficient solar panels or wind turbines when you worry you won't have anything to eat tomorrow? I wanted to slap you people when you said developing countries should just invest in clean energy. You ignorant pseudo hippies should get yourselves educated in the disastrous applications of pollution control laws before trying to implement policy on a country you've never visited. You have probably never even visited a developing nation, but have lived in abundance thanks precisely to fossil fuel. Stop squealing, what about the planet, and start saying, what about the people? If you think the environment is above humanity, then start by killing yourself, you ungrateful rich liberals.
I think he's that was quite well said. No, I it's
I want to be clear first. I want to be absolutely 100% clear first. This guy is a moron. This is absolutely moronic. Now, I'm being aggressive straight off the bat here because that really frustrated me. Purely because he couldn't have watched the video.
Well, it's exactly the opposite of what we said in the video.
Yeah, we said directly. We said developed nations with capital should start a slow transition to a mixed model approach, and developing nations should use fossil fuels to build their economies and make that transition later. We never said anything he said.
Is it addressed to us, or is it?
Yes, it's addressed to us. It's addressed to us. Like,
I'm gonna have to put a ban on the sound effects.
Oh come on! I just learned how to use them.
I'm gonna make a quota. So that's 3 or 4 times you've used it now.
I think 4.
Okay, I'm gonna give you 2 more for this podcast.
Oh, that's great. I was expecting less. But yeah. So my response to this was, and I'm gonna read my response out so people can see what I said. Interesting comment. can you give a timestamp for the quote where we said developing countries should just invest in clean energy? Because it's funny, but I seem to remember saying that developing nations should use fossil fuels to build their economy. And once they're in a better position, then start the transition to renewables. From what I remembered, we seem to make an argument for a slow transition to renewables in the developed world that has the capital to make the transition, brackets, to a mixed model. It's weird. It's kind of like you would rather attack a straw man than our actual position. But I must be mistaken. You couldn't have possibly not watched the video and commented anyway. That person clearly turned the video on and was like, fucking hippies, and just wrote the comment without even watching it.
Yeah, maybe he's had some dealings with some hippies in the past and he just projected it onto us.
Look, I think if someone says, oh, renewables need to just use solar panels. No, of course that's wrong. Like,
well, he said 70% of his country's power comes from hydroelectric. That's fucking amazing.
Yeah, that's great.
What developed nation is he living in?
Yeah, no,
that's like he's beating Germany. I'm pretty sure. Like he just trounced Germany, and they spent billions on.
I would like to head. I'm gonna put it. It might be a troll. I don't think it's a troll. I have no reason to believe it's a troll, but it's
a lot of effort for trolling. That's the
really
thing. Like,
is.
it's trolling usually comes across as like it's just too hard pushed. That comes across. It's hard. Like it could potentially be a troll, but it doesn't feel like one.
Like where he says, where will you get the money to buy these extremely inefficient solar panels or wind turbines when you worry you won't have anything to eat tomorrow? When did we say people who can't afford food should do... It was so clear. I thought we were so clear. This was the nature of the comments we got in this section. Was most of them were people just going,
basically straw manning us.
Yeah, going renewables suck. It was like that wasn't and that isn't even the point of the video. The point of the video is to outline that trying to act as though the benefits of energy are exclusive to fossil fuels, like fossil fuels correlates to better water quality. It's like, yeah, available energy if you can get the energy another way. Even if there isn't another way, even if there's no other way to get energy, fossil fuels are the only way to get energy that we know of right now. That still doesn't mean fossil fuels are the cause of clean water. It means the energy they produce, and we only have one way. And maybe fossil fuels are even still the best way to do it. Even if they are, that doesn't negate the point we were making, which was that still doesn't make them the cause of that.
Yeah.
It doesn't make, you can't go, fossil fuels are the reason for, you can say it, but you can't do it in the way he was doing it.
No, like it, and I had a discussion with somebody in the comments, who basically outlined what he thought Alex Epstein's points were.
Oh, I hate that.
And I was just like, I read them, and I was just like, yeah, I agree with all those points. Like, I got no issues with any of those. That was not what was in the video. I completely disagree with the video, 100%. And I completely agree with this guy's comments in the comment section of what he thought Alex Epstein was trying to say. And but he kind of strawmanned us as well and said that we were saying fossil fuels were bad, blah blah blah. But yeah, the point is, like, watch the video and listen to the response, our response in the video, and then comment on that. Don't comment about what you think we are trying to say without actually listening to what we're saying, because it just happens. Like 99% of the negative comments we get in that regard are people who haven't actually listened to it.
Yeah, like I want to read out this comment thread that we had right here, which I'm gonna throw this onto the screen actually, so everybody can read it. Oh, I don't know whether I should because of like
why
doxing. Nah, it's fine.
Who are you doxing?
Oh, you know what? It's his fucking screen name. You guys can go find it if you want.
Screen names are fine.
Okay, so
if you put your actual name as your YouTube name, you've doxed yourself. Like, that's...
Well, I hate to say it, but I actually just lost it when I just lost it when I...
There's too many comments on this thing.
Oh, here it is. So this Greg Carlson guy, so he goes, clever rebuttal. Oh, at the end of the original video, he stresses that fossil fuel is the cheapest, fastest, and easiest way to help developing countries. What is your alternative to fossil fuel? I said we addressed that in the video. Because we did. We very clearly said that they should just use fossil fuels until they have the developed economy to make that transition. So we didn't even say there should be an alternative. And he goes, solar and wind are not practical if that is what you are referring to. Too expensive and not enough return. I said, that's not what we said in the video regarding undeveloped countries, because that isn't what we said. Now, he goes, what did you say? I was like, perhaps watch the video you are commenting on. Because, no, you can't turn up and start arguing with me and then when you completely strawman me, ask me to completely like, I'm running a channel here. We got loads of comments coming in. I'm not going to sit here and spell it out and hold your dick for you whilst you piss. Like, well, no, watch the damn video. And
to be fair, that guy was quite good about it and having an open discussion. But like, he obviously just didn't want to invest the time to find the information from the video.
And that's not my job. So, and he goes, perhaps you could answer the question, Mr. Presumptuous. I'm not up for another 14 minutes of my life being sucked away when the answer wasn't made clear in the first place. I want to address that. It was clear as balls. Like, we were very clear that it was, they should still use fossil fuels.
Well, like if you listen to it, I can't foresee any way you could misinterpret it. But
exactly.
I mean, that's just me. I mean, we did write and say it, so
yeah. And then I said, well, I'm not sucking up my time to discuss it with you. So easy enough, problem solved right there. Because I'm not gonna sit and write a paragraph of it. I'm not gonna sit and write what I actually think. If he's not gonna put the time in, why should I? I'm the one who made the video. He's the one who came in and started criticizing. At least know what I said before you start criticizing me. And then he goes, well, neither you or your video has changed my opinion. You're wrong. And I was like, considering you don't know our position, I'm surprised you can be so sure we are wrong. Like,
and I think that last comment kind of sums up the mentality of just, it's people come in with a preordained concept of what the video is going to be about and what our position is going to be. And often the time, like very often, especially with the anti-vax videos as well, they come in and just like just assume away all these positions that we just don't have.
Yeah, and
then argue against those positions, and that's pretty annoying. But I mean,
oh yeah, and that seems to be a huge chunk of what the people who went into that comment section and started arguing was. It's just people who were coming in and either going, climate change isn't real, which Alex Epstein in the video admits it's real.
Yeah, one of the points that pissed me off was he said, "Is it catastrophically bad?" Like,
yeah, that's so. If you want to argue that climate change isn't real, this isn't the video to do it. Yeah, because nobody on either side of that was saying climate change. He wasn't saying it's not real, and we were saying it was real. We both acknowledged it was real. Mm. So if you're going to come in and go, well, climate change is bullshit, fuck off. Go to a different video. It's nothing to do. That's not up for. That's not a topic of discussion in that video. There's no one arguing it. So to come in and go, you guys, it's like no. You can say it if you want, but I'm not going to engage in that discussion because it's not the purpose of the video. There's no point in me doing it.
Yeah, I'm of two minds on that point. I'm up for open discussion in the comments. I don't want to restrict what the discussion is about.
I'm not going to restrict them or ban them or anything, but I'm not going to engage it because there's no.
Well,
I don't see any reason to.
Like. Yeah, no. If they make an like a reasoned point, I'll probably address it, even if it's not 100% to the point of the video. If it kind of has to be on topic. Like don't jump into a climate change video talking about bestiality. But yeah, like if it's slightly off point, like and it's made rationally and it can draw some relevance to the video, then I'll engage it. But yeah, if you don't come in with this like full blown argument of like this climate change denial, you know,
because that's just not the topic of this video.
Yeah, because it's just draw. It is draw. If it's drawing strongly away from the topic of the video, then we're not going to deal with it.
And then the other main one was solar and wind sucks. You can't replace fossil fuels with it.
No one said that. Yeah, no one said that.
Like. For example, and this is I gave out this example like a bajillion times in the comments section. I eventually ended up just copy and pasting it into responses to a load of people's comments because it addressed virtually all these comments, which was, I have solar panels on my house, or the house that I'm living in now, not the house that I'm building, but we will be getting them. They cost us about $3,500, I think, about $3,000. Government rebate was about $250. Now, there's a couple of government incentives on the other side. so for their production values. But basically, we put the majority of that capital in.
Yeah.
A bare minimum and half. Now, those solar panels during the summer do 95 to 99% of our power during the day. And then we've changed our routine around where we'll run the dishwasher and the washing machines. All that is always during the day when the solar panels are working, because it just saves us loads of money on the bills to do it during the day. It does 95 to 99% of power during the summer, 60% for a really bad day in the winter, and up to, it can do 90 if it's pretty, because it is Australia, so some of our winter days do get clear. So between 60 and 90 in winter, our power bills have absolutely plummeted, and our usage of power is lower. But at night, I'm still using coal.
Yeah.
And I have no problem with that. I have absolutely no problem with this mixed model, because during the day, we're mostly using solar, unless we put a lot of things on at once. It saves us a lot of money. We had the money to put in and buy them. They've paid for themselves. We've had them a couple of years now. They've paid for themselves in money we've saved on the bills. And we've greatly reduced our impact on the environment. That's what I advocate for.
Not to mention that I've got a very similar setup, pretty much exactly the same, I think. And the energy that you don't use during the day, because obviously you don't store the energy, you just use it as it's available. Any energy that doesn't get used gets fed back to the grid. So you're actually providing energy to homes that don't have solar.
Yeah.
So and I'm doing the same. And like you said, there's whatever slack needs to be picked up can be picked up by coal. But the decrease in the amount of coal needed, if you implement this situation on a massive scale, which you could easily do in Australia, and which is happening to a degree, you can save so much in terms of fossil fuel use.
Yeah, you can reduce, and that's what we advocate for, which is this mixed model methods where you've got a strong backbone, which is these fossil fuels that's reliable and cheaper in this backbone. And then we have these renewables wherever possible. And in all honesty, when people go, solar's so ineffective and expensive, honestly...
Not here in Australia, it isn't.
No. It didn't cost us, like, they've paid for themselves by now. So now they're a financial benefit for us. And during the day, we're sorted. And we're a really power hungry house as well. Like, we use a lot of power. So, evidently not. They're not that ineffective and expensive.
Well, I don't know who keeps saying that they're ineffective and
like they are ineffective compared to fossil fuels in a lot of ways.
If you're talking about the energy return, well, yeah, like but the energy is free. Like, it's taking energy from the sun, which otherwise would have just been 100% wasted. You know?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I don't see where this inefficiency is coming from. It's supplementary to the backbone, like you said, of fossil fuels. So any kind of supplementary energy is of benefit. So however inefficient it is, unless it's costing more in fossil fuels to produce the solar panels and whatnot, then you're going to get a benefit. Because
the solar panels are fairly expensive to produce. But a good thing to bear in mind is the technology is becoming more readily available. Production means are increasing, and they're getting cheaper and cheaper, and they're getting more and more efficient.
Yeah.
So that's why a slow transition is better as well, because right now renewables definitely we don't have the ability to completely replace fossil fuels.
Oh, no.
Now, as we slowly start replacing it, the technology is improving. We're implementing it at slightly bigger percentages. And, 50 years down the line, it'll be a huge difference, and we'll have a thing that is at least a majority renewables. And as much as I know a lot of climate scientists and a lot of people don't think that is a fast enough way to solve the problem we're having, I think it's the best we're going to get.
Yeah.
And that's all we can do. Like, I know, I saw a report this morning saying we've missed the chance to really prevent climate change, blah, blah, blah. And, there's nothing we can do. Like, we could technically, but there's nothing reasonably that we can get the public to roll with and we can actually get done.
Yeah.
We just have to do the best we can. I think a slow transition to it is the best we're going to get.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, like the infrastructure is in place for fossil fuels as well. It's not like we don't have solar cars, not yet. Not that we can mass produce and use effectively.
Yeah.
So there is always going to be a need for fossil fuels. You know, not to mention like the products produced using petroleum oils and whatnot. But like for people who think that there isn't a reason to transition and push for renewable sources, like go live in Shanghai.
Yeah.
Go live in China for a bit.
I would like to point out a lot of this is a nirvana fallacy, where they go, because it's not perfect, you shouldn't do it at all. Which they're like, because renewables can't completely replace it, or they're not as efficient, you shouldn't use them at all. It's like, no, it's bullshit.
Well, I've seen a couple of comments like that. I haven't seen.
There were a lot in the week that you were away. That week that you were away was hectic.
Obviously, it's
it really peaked during that time as well. Like that's when it was peaking, when you were.
Obviously, people sense my my absence.
They sensed the less patient one of us was gone and just decided to come in full swing.
Yeah, but you're right. It is a nirvana fallacy to say that. I don't think the majority of people hold that view. I think most people just think it's kind of like a fruitless endeavor, which in certain circumstances it is. Like
at bare minimum, even if it doesn't save the environment, it saved me an assload of money. So there's personal, there's just purely selfish reasons to do it as well.
Oh yeah. It's not gonna be the same for like. I mean, we live in an almost ideal climate for solar.
Yeah, we do.
And we could get a lot out of wind as well. But not everybody has that luxury.
But there are a lot of countries who you wouldn't think their climate to be great for renewables, and they're having great success with it.
I didn't think Germany would be great for solar. I didn't think they would be like.
Yeah,
I don't know how much sun Germany gets. During the summer,
neither did I. All those black and white Nazi videos always made it look so, because that's all a sin of Germany, apparently. Sieg Heil! Wow, that got dark.
Yes, excluding Nazi references. Germany seems to be pulling off the solar thing quite well. I mean, they're the major producer of solar panels, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
So there's an industrial benefit to it.
And when you increase, this is the thing to bear in mind as well. When you increase the investment, it builds the production means better. So when more people are buying solar panels, more money goes into the production of solar panels. And that production, they build better factories, bigger ones, they expand, they become cheaper and more available. And that is an important thing for people to remember with this, is the more we put in, the better it's going to get out. So like that was one of the main arguments against solar years ago was, they're really expensive and they're not that good, blah, blah, blah. But the more people have bought them, it's increased the research into them. Like the companies that build solar panels fund research into making better solar panels. And if those companies have no money, they're not going to fund it. And then it's just growth and growth and growth on a basis of that first input. Yeah. Which is just, it'll snowball. It'll start picking up.
Which is why I think that video is one of the more important ones to make. And a lot of people have acknowledged that as well in the comments, that it's, I mean, I don't know why he needs to promote fossil fuels. They're already the main source of energy for most things. So,
but they're lovely. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know what the agenda is to try and promote further use of fossil fuels, just to shut up the climate change conspiracy.
Oh, God. And speaking of that may be a good transition point into one of our other videos, which I guess we can talk about, which was the anti-vaxxing video.
Oh yes.
That video was hectic.
That
dude is
dude's nuts.
So Mike Adams,
I started watching that video and I was like, this guy seems alright. Like he's not that crazy, and it just got worse and worse and worse and worse, and it basically just spiraled out of control.
That's one of those things that I was really. I'm just getting a picture of Mike Adams.
Just cause.
Just so you can look at his face. Look at his face. It was really weird because he started off, and you're kind of like, oh, this is not great, but it's okay. And then he's doing things like they're child killers. And it's like
they get kicks out of it.
Yeah,
it's like what the fuck.
It is insane, and you know, it was the fact that he was able to claim. It was funny because he basically levied at people who are pro-vaccine that they're dogmatic, and that believing in the science behind vaccines means you're dogmatic, and you've just believed it without any good reason to. Blah 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 blah. Now,
buying into the authoritarian science community, which I don't know why.
I just kicked the table and just
everything almost just came to a crashing halt just now.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. But yeah, so he goes, "You've bought into this big science stuff," and then, like 2 minutes later, says they're all child killers and they enjoy he says they enjoy sticking like injecting things into children just to see what happens. I'm like, and you're calling them dogmatic. You're accusing all these thousands of people of being happily enjoyable child killers.
Yeah.
Like getting a kick out of torturing children. Like,
it's just, I mean, like it's easy. It's easy to pick someone who is dogmatic when they demonize the opposition.
It's like when I'm talking about anti-vaxxers, I honestly believe they have the best intentions.
Oh yeah,
I think they want what is best for the children, but the Dunning-Kruger effect, which for anybody who doesn't know quickly, the Dunning-Kruger effect is the less you know about something, it increases your confidence of, because you don't know what you don't know, you then feel like you know more. So because they're so clueless about the mechanisms of science and how vaccines work, they just see a scary, scary needle, that they make the wrong decision. But the decision is with good intentions, I think, most of them.
Yeah.
But he's so willing to just say on the other side that they're all just they all just love killing children. And it's like, look, if you were reasonable, you would turn around and go, well, you know, if you're reasonable, you wouldn't be anti-vaccine. But if he was more reasonable than he is now, he would turn around and say, they've made a mistake. I believe they want what's best, because they clearly are trying to create something that helps. And you could go, oh, well, they're wrong. They've made these mistakes, outline the mistakes, and this is why they're wrong. But to call them child killers, it's just, you're asserting the intention of tens of thousands of people.
Probably far more. I mean, the majority of people, because he said people who advocate, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he did.
So he just blanketed everybody who's opposed to him, everybody who doesn't already believe what he believes. I might have not remembered that quite accurately. I'm pretty sure he said anybody advocates for vaccines is a child killer and enjoys sticking children with needles to see what happens. That's that's a lot of people. And I mean, like, it kind of got, when they got to that point in the video, I was kind of just like, wow, that's like, this has no longer become like an argument for, or like argument of rebuttals. It's just become, holy crap, how crazy is this dude?
Yeah. And that is a big thing with the anti-vaccine movement.
I don't want to say that, because like I've talked to people who like you said, they just have this the Dunning-Kruger effect, and they're just not educated on.
Definitely, I'm not saying hashtag not all, but well, I am saying hashtag not all. But the point is, there is a large strain in this movement which is extremely villainous and they are very quick to demonize the opposition, whereas the pro-vaccine movement, the vast majority of, I haven't seen any. Now there may be some. If anybody in the comments has seen any, go ahead and tell me. But I have not seen a single pro-vaccine argument that just asserts bad intentions on the anti-vaxxer side. It is more they're misinformed, they're crazy, they're insane. I've seen they're insane a lot, like yeah. But I've never seen the argument made that they just want to see kids get
They've got bad intentions.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. And I like a lot of Facebook pages which are pro-vaccine and stuff, and I like looking at those dank memes. But I don't know whether it's out there. It must be out there somewhere. There must be someone who does, but it definitely doesn't seem to be nearly on the same scale as the anti-vaccine movement.
Well, yeah, if you look at the arguments for the anti-vaccine, like it's not based off fact. Like if you don't have this facts and scientific studies to back things up, all you can do then is try and decrease the value of evidence on the other side. And the best way to do that is to decrease the authority, or take away the integrity of the authority from which that information comes. So they talk down about science and the scientific community and the peer review system, and talk about corruption and blah blah blah, instead of showing evidence for their position. So it's like, even if you prove all of this corruption, it doesn't prove your position.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things we get from creationists a lot.
Yeah.
Which is, if they can disprove evolution, that means God. I was like, no, it doesn't. Like,
yeah,
that's false dichotomy to be like, either it's this or this. No, just because you can prove that one thing.
The weakest side will always try and bring down the other one instead of trying to rise above it, and that's what you see. I mean, like, I'm trying my hardest not to be dogmatic, and just buy into confirmation bias. But that's why I'm confident in my position for vaccines, because I've listened to people try and make discussions, and people have given me resources and gone, check out these people, even though they've gone, you don't know what you're talking about. You haven't seen you haven't done the research, blah blah, and they've just had one woman drop off just a list of names, and I went, all right, I'll I don't know why you couldn't have just given me some evidence if you think there's all this evidence out there, but I'll check out your advocates for anti-vaccine, and then I checked out the first 3. She gave me 12. Spent some time checking out the first 3. All of them were bullshit. If the first 3 names in your list are all shit, one of them was legitimately insane. He believed that the government was running conspiracies to control the population and blah blah blah,
mind control through
mind control and population control, and he was batshit crazy. The other guy was a scientist.
It's funny when people go, Bill Gates wants to do population controls through vaccines and stuff. It's like, the best way to fulfill your evil scheme is to announce it on Facebook.
The other guy was an actual scientist who had some theories about vaccines and autism, and basically outlined that people who are potentially autoimmune compromised may develop neurological disorders from vaccines, which there is a little bit of evidence out there to support that. And these people make up such a small fraction of the population, and they're already autoimmune compromised, and those types of people probably shouldn't be getting vaccines. I mean, that's why we vaccinate people, to protect the autoimmune.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons.
Yeah, one of the reasons. And the other person looked at was just a GP who basically had gotten a lot of press because she was in a lawsuit. People tried to, I think the government tried to sue her for promoting the disuse of vaccines to her patients, blah blah blah. But basically, it talks about her whole story, and she had a family. Well, she had I believe it was her child had a reaction to a vaccine. Therefore, now she's suddenly got a personal issue with it. But it talks about how she went and did all this research and found out that the vaccines, that the mortality from vaccines decreased well before the vaccine came out.
Right.
And that was her evidence. And I was just like, well, she's a GP. She probably should know better than to take a blanket statistic like that like the rate of mortality from a specific disease, and then call that an inefficient use of a vaccine. So basically what it was is that the use, and I've seen this used a few times, which is you have stats show that the decreased mortality of a particular disease decreases significantly a lot sooner on a time scale than when the vaccine was introduced. But what happens is, as medical science gets better to the point where we can actually make vaccines, people die a lot less from everything. All-cause mortality goes down everywhere. And the disease, but that doesn't affect the complication rate as much of these diseases. So these diseases are still a problem. What you need to look at is the rate at which these diseases are contracted as a result of whether the vaccine is effective or not.
Yeah.
And the overall complication rate because of the disease. And so basically it's crap statistics and dogma, which leads to these. So,
and it honestly, like a lot of people I've talked to which are anti-vaccine, it's born completely out of misunderstanding.
Yeah.
And humans are really badly evolved to understand macro statistics. Like, they suck. We suck so bad at it. We suck so bad at risk perception when it comes to large scale things. Like, we're all right. We're all right at risk perception when it comes to things like walking under a tree that's being supported by like another tree that looks like it's good. Well, honestly, humans do always lean towards the false negative as opposed to the false positive as opposed to the false negative. But it just, I'm actually getting like, it's hurting my brain just thinking about this. But it's born of misunderstanding, where I get people that they make arguments that they think they're like, oh man, this is rock solid. And I get why they think it's convincing.
Well, Dunning-Kruger.
Yeah, exactly. I get it. Like, they make the arguments and I'm like, that's retarded. But I understand why.
Yeah.
I understand why without knowing more, you might think that.
I think a lot of it comes from like you can't put a face on
you can't put a face on a statistic.
Yeah, that's it. And the statistics are why vaccines are such a good thing. And it's very easy to have a face of this child, to promote a face of a child
I was just about to say that,
who's had a severe reaction to this vaccine,
because it's such a small number as well. So when it happens, it gets coverage too.
Yeah.
So like, it's
not a million faces you're looking at. It's a couple of very small innocent children that you see
after millions of people who are vaccinated.
Yeah.
The vaccines, honestly, I think to me they're the second best thing that ever happened in medical science.
As next to what, antibiotics?
Antibiotics would be first for me.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I mean, like, we couldn't function as a society on the scale that we have without vaccines.
And it's like, yeah, okay, like if vaccines didn't exist, you got to worry about things like polio that'd mess you up really bad. Yeah. So I'm just trying to stretch my leg. Oh God! Oh, the pleasure of stretching my leg.
All right, you've wasted your second to last one.
I don't think that was wasted. That was a good one. I really enjoyed stretching my leg then. What was I saying? Now I can think about is the dankness of my voice effects. Come on, people in the comments, let me know. It's not live streaming. So
what?
I'm just being a troll.
No, we should. If the internet was better, we should do a live stream. But
when I move into my house, we can probably do that.
Okay, so that's something we can look forward to. There's
Yeah.
people calling us on our bullshit
Yeah,
live on air.
Yeah, that's great. That's what I want to hear. But anyway, so I've actually completely forgotten what I was talking about before I stretched my leg. I know it was anti-vaccine, so I'm just going to kind of jump back in and keep going, and I'll eventually...
The face of children is...
Oh, yeah. So polio is going to mess us up. But a lot of diseases like measles aren't going to kill everybody. But the thing is, with measles, you've got one in every 1,000 children to 2,000 dies from measles. When you have millions of people getting it, that's a lot of deaths. And then you've got 1 in 10 wind up with hearing problems as a result of it. And just when you put all of these complications together, it is the clear, extremely resounding winner in a cost-benefit analysis versus vaccines.
Well, I just want to point out as well that like people, like if you can't use the death rate, I just want to hype up on that fact that you can't use death rates as a measure of effectiveness.
It's a confounding factor because there's so many other compounding factors that you can put into that because death rate, quality of medical care.
Well, that's the point I was about to make is like if you have a small number of people catching a disease, you can deal with that with the medical system. If you have a large number of people being hospitalized due to an illness or a disease, a virus, whatever, on a massive scale, then the medical system just becomes crippled under the weight of that. And then you're going to have a lot more deaths because people can't get the treatment they need.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a lot of factors that come into, getting the statistics for the success of vaccines or the failure.
Yeah, and it's just statistics is hard.
Oh yeah, I mean,
like I've been doing like work basically full time research now, I guess, because my postgraduate degree and stuff for 2.5 years maybe, and I've learned a lot about statistics in that time. I still have a lot of trouble with statistics. Statistics is really hard.
Oh yeah,
like it's a full degree. Like you do a math degree and you're like, yeah, I get statistics now. It's like
that's why they have somebody at the university who specializes in statistics too.
Yeah, we have a statistics advisor who I make a habit of I go to her whenever if I'm writing a paper, like one of the papers I'm writing and trying to get published right now, I've had a couple of skerfuffles with my supervisors regarding how to do the stats. Then I was just like, you know what, go to the stats advisor. Went to stats advisor, she resolved it in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just, stats is hard.
You've got to love numbers to do that job.
Oh, man. And it's funny because you have to be really good at abstract thinking as well to deal with problems that arise in stats. So I had a problem regarding incomplete data sets, and SPSS, the software, doesn't allow you to use incomplete data sets. And it reduced my sample size, which affects the power analysis of the study. Now, I was just like, well, what are we going to do here? Blah, blah, blah. Well, I was just like, it's smaller sample size, fine, we'll just use it. And that was what me and my other supervisor were like. And the other one wanted to run it as a covariate, and so to run the dropout as a covariate and then put it in. But that's not how SPSS works. And I went to the stats advisor, and she's just like, okay, so your one supervisor wants you to control for dropouts. Okay, you can't do that the way he wants you to in SPSS. Just SPSS doesn't work like that. And then she sat there and probably for about 10 minutes just said random things and drew on paper. Then eventually was like, yeah, this is what we could do. And eventually was like, oh, and then goes on a computer, looks up a couple of ways, like, yeah, this is great. And then she was like, this is how you're going to do it. And we found a way she basically designed a way for us to do a control that we've put in the methods now of the paper, and that's how we've controlled for it. I would have thought of that.
That's something you can only do with a good understanding of mathematics and statistics.
And that's the thing. That's an awesome point to make, actually, is to take information and to solve problems, you need to have a good understanding. And the anti-vaxxers don't have a good understanding of statistics, and they don't have a good understanding of biology.
Yeah.
And that is like asking someone who doesn't understand statistics to solve the problem I was having.
Yeah.
you're going to look at the internet, you're going to go on Google and look up stuff, and you're not going to find anything useful. Like if you look up what I was trying to do on Google for my paper, you wouldn't find a good answer. There was no way. There's no way you're going to find a good answer unless you really knew what you were looking for. And that is because, it's so easy to find misleading information on the internet. The internet is such a good thing, but also such a bad thing.
You have to already know what it is you're searching for to actually find it. And like I think I don't know about you, but the only real evidence that people have put forward for vaccines and autism has been either anecdote or correlation, and the correlation isn't even correlation. So
I just put national news up there.
like, and I think it's a good point that you just made about that you need to know, you need to have a good understanding to see through those types of things. Like it's so easy to see A happened because so B happened after A, therefore A caused B.
Yeah.
Like that's such an easy way for a human mind to perceive things, and that's not how reality is.
No, like you can look at the thing I just pulled up here. I love this website. It's Spurious Correlations. And you can see there a correlation between US spending on science, space, and technology and suicides by hanging, strangulation, and suffocation. Or what number of people have drowned by falling into a pool. Films Nicolas Cage appeared in. Look at that.
That's a strange correlation.
Yeah, but look at that. Look at the insane strength of that. Look at that. That's fantastic.
How does the number of films that Nicolas Cage has been in drop?
I think it's how many films
I'm looking at drownings. I'm looking at drownings. My mistake.
Yeah, I think that's per year of films he does.
Yeah, so you can manipulate the numbers to appear a certain way quite easily.
Yeah, very, very easily. Yeah. And this is the point that, and we had oh my God, one of the climate change points we had made a lot was people going, oh, you said correlation doesn't equal causation, but then you used correlation of thermal temperature to CO2 levels. Correlation doesn't, and it's like, no, that's not, no one, like, there are basically correlation can equal causation alongside a myriad of evidence showing mechanistically how it happens.
Well, no, correlation doesn't equal causation. Correlation shows a pattern. Then you have to determine causation.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
To verify the pattern.
And one of the favorite studies, I'm gonna see if I can find it. I'm putting in the description, but it's a climate change study, a really old one. And it's the simplest idea. They basically get a glass ball, put a thermometer inside it, and put a heat lamp on the outside, and they change the gas composition inside the ball. Turn up CO2, heat goes up because the refraction of light.
Yeah.
That was it. I was like, oh. And they could directly, like these greenhouse gases, increase those rate, temperature goes up, decrease them, temperature goes down, boom, 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 boom.
I mean, mechanistically, it is very simple. Like how do you argue with a simple test like that? It's like you can't deny mechanistically that CO2 in a, I don't want to say closed environment because the Earth's not a closed environment, but for gases, it is. Gases don't escape much through the atmosphere into space. So in that sense, it is a closed environment with heat coming in. So if you increase the amount of pollutants and CO2, for instance, in the atmosphere, you just have to have an increase in temperature. There's no possible way, like.
So, and that's the point, is that you take a relationship and then you apply critical thinking to it, and like for example, per capita cheese consumption, the number of people who died by becoming tangled in their bed sheets. Like, what you do is you take this correlation and then you apply critical thinking to it, and the same thing happens with Alex Epstein's increase fossil fuels, increase clean water.
Yeah.
you look at that and you go, okay, fossil fuels is a middleman process, and clean water is an output. So what is the output? So what is the output of that middleman process? Energy. So then you've got fossil fuels give energy, and that energy gives the clean water. It's not like you just
a correlation within a correlation.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like you just get fossil fuels and pour them over your inside your water and your water becomes clean. No, you have to turn that into energy. Now you then go, so then you look at that correlation and go, okay, so we have energy. Are there other ways to acquire energy? Yes. So now you look at these confounding factors and you go, energy, doesn't matter where it comes from. It's energy. So now you have energy that is causing this clean water. So, and now there's different methods to get it. So then you look at the different methods and you can go, okay, fossil fuels have these negative outputs. Do the other ones. Okay, these ones don't. So now you can get this energy increase. Energy as well. But you can get this increase in clean water without fossil fuels. Whether you can do it reliably or not isn't important. That's not the point that has to be. It is important, but it's not the point, the key point in his reasoning that was being pointed out. It was that is not how you do a correlation. And for someone to throw that back and go, well, CO2, it's like, no. That's...
If you provide the mechanism for it, then
you can outline mechanistically why that happens, and you can experiment on it, and you can look at thousands and thousands of years of correlation, and you can basically.
Well, you still need a mechanism for that. Correlation never ever equals causation. Exactly. I might eat my words at some point. I don't know, but.
As far as I'm aware, you would always have to have some mechanistic.
Correlation is simply a pattern. That's all it is, and you always need to determine a mechanism to explain that pattern. Correlation just gives you a direction to look in, really.
Yeah, exactly, and that is that. But that's the thing. If you don't understand how correlation actually works, I can see why someone would make that argument. Yeah. When we were recording that video, I did think someone's going to say, we said correlation doesn't equal causation, but then we've basically outlined, oh, look at global trends of heat and CO2. I did think that, and I thought, yeah, it's not worth it. I'll deal with it when it comes up in the comments. But and I'm actually pretty sure we did mention that there's a mechanistic point in the video, but I honestly don't remember that.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. But I can't remember it now. It's some weeks ago. But yeah, I think that's something we should endeavor to make sure we do from this point on. Is if you're going to use, you can use correlation to suggest a connection between things. You can't use it as proof of connection.
You need a mechanism.
Yeah,
you need a proof. A strong mechanism to outline.
You can say there is a potential relationship between these two things. You can't say what that relationship is to a degree.
But then as soon as you can go, here's a mechanism, here's how it works, now look at the correlation.
Yeah.
You have a much stronger statistic, which he just didn't do.
Yeah.
And that was the key of that video.
Well, the problem I had was that I'm quite sure he knew that it was energy.
Well, he even said it was energy at one point.
Yeah.
He said energy and then flipped back. I was like, oh... You noob.
So that's intellectual dishonesty right there. That's purposely misleading.
Yeah, exactly. He needs to, he should have addressed that. If he'd gone in the video and he'd gone, yep, this is energy. Energy does this. Energy does this. Energy is awesome. Okay, now here's my reasons why fossil fuels are the best source of energy. Yeah. It would have been a much better video because he probably could have made some good points. You can go, energy is essential. Boom. If you deny that, you're a mongoloid.
Cheapest possible way to get energy, fossil
and then you go, here's the cheapest way, and then you can go, okay, so let's do the cost-benefit analysis of climate change, and then you can put that in, and you can mesh it around, and you can be far more honest about it than he was. And that's what we did in the video. That's what we were outlining.
Yeah.
And people just came in and assumed
we're hippies that don't like fossil fuels.
Yeah, exactly. And they can suck a dick up until they hiccup. It's just clearly it's madness. which
It's all the more reason why we need to make that video.
yeah, exactly. And I try to remember, because I admit it can be a bit stressful to look at a video that's got 200 dislikes.
I don't care. Like it's controversy. And
Well,
I expect people are very divided on climate change as well. So every time someone comes across a pro climate change video,
I'll let the butt hurt ensue.
yeah, like you're guaranteed to get some backlash on no matter which side you go on.
We got backlash from people on the climate change side for just suggesting a slow transition. We got a couple of comments in that one being like, "You're not taking it seriously enough. You need to."
Did we?
Yeah, we got a couple. Yeah,
we're not pushing hard enough for clean energy.
We got people saying that the slow transition doesn't solve the problem quick enough, and it's worthless to do it that way. You have to solve it faster.
There's another Nirvana fallacy.
Yeah,
all or nothing.
Yeah.
But well, like there's I guess arguments can be made for what rate we need to do it at, but like I mean, all we did was say that we point out the practicality of it.
And that's the problem, is the video wasn't for a huge analysis of renewables versus fossil fuels. It was just, Alex, you're being a schlong here. Like, come on. And then to kind of pull it back, that's the same thing with I actually think with that anti-vaxxer video, it was different. In that anti-vaxxer video, there were a lot of macro attacks made, which was like things that you would address to the whole anti-vaxxer movement. Because, like, for example, when we talk about statistics of measles versus vaccines, that applies anywhere.
Yeah.
And if someone comes into that video and starts being anti-vaxxer, I can get why they would do that. But I'm trying to pull it back to this vaccine video because I know we're back on the climate change one.
Oh,
I'm struggling.
The issue I have with the negative responses is I'm all for like constructive feedback, but I think the like to dislike ratio shows where people sit in terms of their opinion on the topic. I expected more
dislikes for our anti-vaxxer stuff, but I just don't think they've had the exposure.
Yeah. I mean, you just look at the views for the climate change one, but the point is, like, I'm more than happy to get feedback. If I make it change, in my opinion, that's progress to me. I've learned something new.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I'm not here to go to
win.
I've already got 100% like conclusion with all of my opinions, and they're all set in stone, and I must be 100% right in all of them. Like that's I don't know anybody would want to hold that opinion, because
that's a huge it's a really bad habit. Like, I've had people in the comment section who have disagreed with me and been like, "Well, you just got in a pissing contest with someone who's got," and it's like, I wasn't aware we were in a pissing contest. I thought we were attempting to discuss these ideas and to see if we can, find some common ground here and maybe persuade the other. Whereas a lot of people enter an internet comment section just to win.
Just jerk themselves off, basically.
Yeah.
It's an ego jerk. And like one thing I have noticed from starting this channel is that that people are just as willing to pump up their intellectual ego as they are like on the street. Like if you challenge somebody to like you challenge
let's throw it down, bro.
Yeah, you challenge another man's authority on the street, and he will get in your face. It's the same type of people exist on the internet, and they
they are still just people.
They're just physical about it. Yeah, people are people, and the thing that pisses me off is ego, and it's as well as like intellectual dishonesty and like.
Well, intellectual dishonesty in a lot of ways branches from ego. It's the desire to win.
Yeah, well, this and dogmatism. Like dogmatism breeds intellectual dishonesty, and dogmatism has a lot to do with your ego. It's all about being righteous,
yeah,
rather than being logical and reasoned. And I want people to point out problems with the video. If there's an issue with the video, I want to know about it sooner rather than later. Or in terms of like my reasoning, the whatever, any problems whatsoever. But all like, and I guess this is kind of a good thing. Like most of the crap we've been getting back has just been ill-informed and like misrepresented.
Yeah, and like I have no issue with getting comments that criticize us, like, but I really want ones that I look at and go, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And I like, you know, we finally reached this point with the channel in size that there's more comments than we can respond to reasonably. Yeah. I knew this day would come eventually, and you know,
it kind of just reached that tipping point where it's just like, oh, we can get to most of these now, like 99% of these. Now it's just like, oh, can't really get to.
Yeah, now it's like maybe half, 3/4 if we're both on a good roll and not too much going on.
Yeah.
But you know, and again, I've thrown myself off. Criticism. So I don't mind getting I would love criticism that was good. Like I would love to look at something and be like, yeah, that's a really good point you've made there. I'm going to think this through and there have been 1 or 2 times where I've had, but I can't think of a time where I've had someone levy criticism against a video that I've been like, man, that's a fantastic point. I've had a couple of times where people have made me think, but yeah, I'm trying to think of one now, but there must be one somewhere. But we've made a lot of videos now, so I've probably lost track. We've 48 videos.
To be fair, like if somebody was able to change my mind on a subject, like in a comment section on the internet, like I must have had a pretty stupid fucking opinion to start with. Like I don't. Neither of us really kind of jump on these topics without having some degree of like.
Yeah, that's why I think
research
I think the podcast would be a good thing, because this is stuff that we talk about without. We're not necessarily in our comfort zone. Like we very well may eat words for this right now for the gun control thing that we said earlier.
Yeah,
because that's neither of us are particularly confident on this issue. We're really just, you know, we're just talking.
Like,
and someone may come in and know a lot and make a lot of good points that we hadn't considered.
Yeah, absolutely.
But anti-vaxxers, that population, I'm of no concern that they're going to make an argument that I'm going to be like, whoa, I just never. I never even conceived of that idea. Yeah, exactly. But that's why I like the podcast as well, because it's a bit less. Because when you're making a video, you've got to fact check it, and you've got to really. Yeah,
you got to try and you got to at least try and make it airtight.
And when we're writing it, we do try and preempt what people are going to say in response, and we try and write the scripts tailored to that. Whereas podcast, I'm not doing that. We've been going for like 2 hours and 15 minutes so far or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we need to start winding it up actually. But yeah, so we can't plan the whole thing out. So maybe the podcast will get more, you know, good conversations and points that really
bring up some ideas. So yeah, if you have anything, if you got any criticisms on our videos that you haven't put down before, or anything we said on the podcast, let us know in the comments, because this channel is here for discourse, is here for discussion.
Yeah,
here for the promotion of different ideas.
No, just agree with us.
Yeah, if you're not hitting the like button, just unsubscribe.
If you're not hitting the like button, you will get banned.
And that's the final one for today.
Yeah, we run out of time, so I figured I'd use the final one.
Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, so no, not going to ban. Not going to ban.
No. I think we've banned one person, have we?
I think about 3.
Oh, 3.
It's just been some people who've come in and literally just been spammers. In that, it's pretty much things like there was one that was spamming links to this website which was just selling stuff, and it was like on every video, and it was like, oh well, you know,
that's just
I've never
I think there was definitely one guy who was just talking shit on every like commenting on every video, completely irrelevant points, and just not like having open discussion.
Yeah, and that was in the early days of the channel as well, like
Yeah.
really early days. So where it was him and like 2 of the comments, and then he started. Well, that I was like, that's fine. Then he started like going to other commenters in our section and like talking smack to them, and I was just like, nah, that's. If you were actually having a point, like you were trying to get a discussion, you know, you were just writing in all caps and yeah, but you know, maybe people will get butthurt about that. Shouldn't have banned anybody. Laissez-faire, free speech.
Free speech, free speech.
My free speech. It's like, well, it's not exactly how free speech works. You know?
Freedom isn't free.
Oh, much dank, very wow. So I think we start closing it down there.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Do we have any other topics we wanted to cover?
Yeah, but
Run out of time though.
we run out of time. Like we've been going. This is probably going to be about 2 hours and 30 minutes.
Oh wow.
So yeah, if you've made it this far, we love you long time. I need a code.
Are we gonna do another code?
Yeah, I love these codes. I love knowing who, like when someone comments and goes and has the code. I get so happy. I'm always like, yes, someone's watched the whole thing. That's great. Someone
We're gonna have to start implementing the code like towards like the final quarter rather than right at the end because
people could skip.
Yeah, people will just like, oh, I'll get the code and get the love, get the bloops praise.
Yeah, I'm gonna start doing a system where like at the start of each topic, I'm gonna give like a letter, and then that'll make the code.
Yeah, no, that's
too
that's just gonna piss people off so much.
Okay.
Unless we like incentivize it with something.
I'm
Quick wristy behind the
an angry handy
corner
J.
shop.
I give out handy J's. I definitely give out handy J's. That's not an issue for me.
Well, I'll hold you to that then, because
So-
I won't be the one doing it.
This is the part of the podcast where you're going to get to hear, I give Jay a handy J. Yeah, I'd actually rather not.
Yeah, I would prefer if that didn't happen.
Okay, so the code for this week is Nicolas Cage. Just Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage.
Oh, wait. Where's my thing? Oh, there it is. Okay, here we go.
What was he correlated with?
He was correlated with drowning. Nicolas Cage drowning. Wow, that's hardcore. Something to do with Nicolas Cage.
No, we'll go Nicolas Cage falling into a pool. That is the official code. Nicolas Cage falling into a pool.
That's hardcore. There you go. Nicolas Cage falling into a pool. If that is the code for this episode, if you put that code, you will provide me with much happiness. if you know, listen. If you skip to here, I will find you. I don't have any money, but what I do have is a very particular set of skills.
Statistics.
Oh, that's great. So, I really enjoyed this again. I was worrying before we started. I was like, oh, we're going to be able to get the conversation going the whole time because we weren't too clear on the topics. But man,
I think
2.5 hours just flies.
I think the problem is that we can't stay on topic. Is is the issue?
Australian politics, gun control within 5 minutes of starting. Oh, and that goes on for like half hour. But thank you. Oh wow! But just as a side note, it's 4:20 p.m. right now. Blaze it. 4:20.
Oh,
blaze
4:20.
It. Blaze it.
Perfect timing to finish. We should have started at 4:20. That would have been a much more interesting podcast.
Ba-da-da-da-da. It's the motherfucking D-O-double-G Snoop Dogg, and we're just like blazing it up this whole podcast. That'd be great. I just don't know that.
New subscriber goal. We will get high and do a podcast.
Oh, dude, I'm being serious right here. Like, we should do a subscriber goal where it's like I would just get off chops. Like, I would drink because I don't drink. Like,
I don't drink or do any form of drugs.
Same here.
I don't even take Panadol or
Yeah, like I'm the same. So I have actually. Yeah, so my alcohol, when I'm drunk, I'm a fucking nutter. So I'll just you know what? I'll set a goal up for that, and it'll be I'll just get absolutely dry. The problem is I do have to manage the mixer, but honestly, I don't.
The sound quality is going to go downhill very quick.
It's just going to be me like, oh,
and
good. Hello, everybody.
You've used one too many now.
I've just realised that. What are you going to do about it, though? There's no punishment.
I'm gonna when you leave, I'm gonna disconnect the sound effects button. It's gonna be
That voids the warranty. But yeah, so man, what was I saying?
we're gonna get drunk and do a ridiculous podcast if we have
We'll
to
set a
pick.
goal.
We have to pick. Yeah,
Well, when we hit 5,000 subscribers, we're really gonna make a lot of goals clear and we're really gonna put some investment into the channel. So that's one of the things we discuss. But we're not going to talk about that more until it gets closer.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you everybody for watching. If you've made it to this point, or even if you know.
Well,
watch
if
half of it.
we can say thank you for watching half of it, but you won't get this. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking that as I was saying it. Yeah, we've really, at least I have really enjoyed doing this. So we'll either be doing another 3 videos and then a podcast, or another 4 videos and a podcast. That's the way we're going to do this. It'll be 3. So it'll be minimum 3 videos and then a podcast, sometimes 4, depending on what we're feeling like and what we want to discuss.
Yep.
It
can depend on the what videos we have in mind as well, and what topics we want to talk about. If we have something we really want to discuss, we might start the podcast a week earlier.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, great. So yes, thank you everybody. Remember to like this video. Leave us a comment, because I think the podcast ones I'm more inclined to respond to comments on, to really make sure I get to them.
Yeah,
because especially if you've got the code, I really definitely make an effort to give a good encompassing response to those, because I think the people who have made it this far are really, they really do support our channel. If you've watched 2 hours and 40 minutes probably.
Yeah. Well, I've wasted some time on some bullshit, so
yeah,
that's what the internet's for, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. I have no idea where my pointer is, so I can't actually end the show. It has to go forever. No, I got it. So, thank you everybody for watching. Yeah, we love you long time.
Yeah, thanks. I had good fun. Can't wait to do our next one.
Yep, awesome. All right, thank you. Goodbye.